Welcome. Sandoval Communications presents video streaming of the June 2020 board meeting of Sandoval's HOA. The live stream is simulcast on Sandoval Communications' Facebook page, Sandoval Cape Coral, and on Sandoval's neighbors Synergy. Alternate viewing is also available 24/7 on Sandoval Video Box channel, found on YouTube, and on Sandoval's website, www.livesandoval.com. The meeting will begin shortly. Thank you for your participation by watching the meeting.
Good evening. The June 25th Board of Directors meeting is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we'll take roll call. And I want to welcome my colleagues here from the board. We have a couple calling in virtually. So please state present via call-in if that's the situation. Vice President Ron Spooner?
Present via call-in.
Thank you. Treasurer Bill Tubb?
Present via call-in.
Director Scott D. Philippus?
Present.
Melanie Palmer?
Present.
L. Roper?
Present.
And Don Wells?
Present.
All right. Quorum is established?
Proof of notice was provided.
Okay, great. Thank you. And at this time, I'll turn it over to you for the introduction.
Thank you. Tonight, we're going to have two segments of resident comments on agenda items. The first will be involving landscaping, specifically the landscape contract with Down to Earth. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce two visitors from Down to Earth. They are Mr. Tom Trombley and Mr. A.J. Price. Okay, the way we will conduct this is we received several resident emails that wanted to be addressed for this segment. I'm going to read every email that came in, and then after the conclusion, Tom and or AJ will respond and give a presentation to those emails. The first one is from Tamara Bilisic from 2639 Vario Court. She says, I would like to share my ongoing concerns regarding the down-to-earth landscaping. The following is a timeline of events. October 1, attended landscape meeting and shared photos of property and concerns regarding lawn equipment, digging up lawns, edging concerns, and weeds with Matt King, supervisor. October 7th, walked 15 properties on Vario with Matt and Bill Tubb, observed lawns and tread marks, widened landscape beds, weeds, irrigation concerns, edging, inadequate weeding, and trim issues. Plan of action, Matt would get a smaller mower. I emphasized the importance to do this before mulch is laid down so the tires would not ride over the edges of the landscape beds. He would look at other issues. November, irrigation issues resolved, mulch was laid, large mowers dug tires into edges of beds. January, I spoke at the board meeting to share concerns, nothing had changed. May, I would like to use this month to illustrate a 52 window of events on one specific property. Day 1, which was May 4th, I emailed Jerry Evans pictures of property showing damages done by mowers. Day 3, May 6th, Jerry met me and the homeowner at the property. There were 3 areas of lawn dug up by mowers, weeds around the property, landscape beds widened by mowers, mulch no longer at edge of the beds, grass along the edge of the property, rear fence line not cut, weeds along and blank. Jerry phoned Matt and said that he wanted sod put down to repair the areas, weeding around the property, and to train his crew in proper cutting. Also discussed getting the smaller mower as requested in the past. December 17th, May 20th, no action was taken as requested by Jerry. However, the smaller mower had been purchased and used. Day 26, which was May 29th, additional tire mower marks. No action taken as requested by Jerry 3 weeks ago. Day 31, which is June 4th, met with A.J. Price, branch manager, Matt King, and Bill Tubb, walked the property and a few more. Specific to this property, A.J. said that all items that Jerry requested would be taken care of immediately. In addition, he would put down mulch to replace what was destroyed by the mowers. Day 50, which was June 23rd, no action taken as requested by Jerry. Day 52, June 25, today, incomplete weeding done yesterday. However, all other items requested by Jerry and promised by AJ have not yet been completed. In summary, I believe that Down to Earth has not been providing the service that the HOA has contracted them to perform. I would like to thank Jerry Evans for being responsive and documenting these issues with me. It is very disappointing that so much time is taken from our GM to micromanage what the Down to Earth supervisor should be doing. I hope that you will do what is right and find a way to exit this contract at some point in the future. To be read at 6:25. This is from Jim Swigert, Greendale Place. Subject, service from Down to Earth on shrub trimming. Issues, there are 5. Frequency of shrub trimming is not adequate, causing shrubs to grow out of control. 2, trimming house to house varies greatly. Most trimming is left too high, covering much of window openings. 3, trimming is not done in a professional manner and lacks a consistent height, width, and adequate distance from home exterior walls. 4, during this week's trimming at some homes, ornamental grasses were cut high, others were cut mid-height, others were not trimmed at all. Last, even after trimming, many shrubs and ornamental grasses are still encroaching on sidewalk passage. If any board member would like to see firsthand the poor quality of trimming, they should feel free to contact me and I will show them the poor quality of work that has been done on Greendale. All workers performing trimming are working very hard in this extreme heat. It is apparent that the management is either not allowing them adequate time or training to perform a good quality of work. In summary, why isn't quality of work and frequency being controlled and overseen by Pope to provide for quality and frequent trimming? Jim Swigert. In the reference emails, this is emails sent to Jerry Evans on January 3rd, 4th, and 18th from Peter Karowski, excuse me. 1, Down to Earth should be put on written notice that they are not meeting terms of the contract with Sandoval. 2, our contract with Down to Earth specifically states pruning shall be performed regularly. They in fact are not trimming shrubs regularly, but only about every 6 months when plants are totally out of control. 3, I requested that a performance requirement addendum be added to the contract to specify their frequency and specifications for all contract elements. Jerry, in your reply on January 3rd, 2020 to my email, you commented that you agreed proper trimming was not being done regularly and you would look into the possibility of adding a performance requirement addendum to the contract. You also stated that landscaping would be inspected weekly and that deficiencies would be sent by certified mail to hold Down to Earth terms of the agreement. The 600 plus residents paying Down to Earth are not receiving adequate service for the monthly fee of $115.50. In the 5 months since you indicated the action will be taken with Down to Earth, what progress has been made on an improved contract with added performance requirement? Thank you, Peter Karowski, Greendale. This is from Chris Bechtel, 2629 Brightside. Chris says, I would like to have this addressed by the Pope representatives. We are sorely in the need of better. Excuse me. It is. I apologize. This is from Jeff Toller, 2516 Hopefield Court. As long as I'm complaining, I can tell you also that Down to Earth has killed 10 of my plants by spraying weed killer too close to them. Joe, Matt's crew chief, who's no longer here, agreed that that has happened. And my wife and I saw the guy spraying the weed killer, but I didn't push for damages. They broke the lock on my irrigation box. Again, I didn't push for damages. The guy helped reset times, didn't have a key, just ripped it open. The bush trimming crew fell on and broke some solar light and mushrooms I have. They are broke and no longer light up. They destroyed the solar collector. Again, I didn't push for damages. And Matt has done nothing to follow up on any of these complaints. And there are pictures attached. The pictures below are acceptable edging and show the sidewalk to my house with the driveway. One pic of an edge corner, I'm sure you meant to say unacceptable. And there are pictures that I've already shared with the contractor. The pics below are the edging I'm getting at the end of where my sidewalk meets the driveway. This is unacceptable. Okay, so he showed acceptable and unacceptable. I just replanted this area 6 weeks ago and got a $50 water bill for watering it. It was nice and healthy, and the rain started back. It looked even healthier until 2 to 3 weeks ago. Down to Earth started to edge it differently from the driveway. First, they weed whacked it at a slant, causing the corner to die. Sent Matt a text, he did nothing. Then today, the guy doing soft edging rounded the corner and widened the gap. I asked Matt in a text why the guy rounded the corner. He said, because if they go straight and chip the paver, people try to make us buy them a new driveway. This area at the end of my sidewalk, the tall grass, like the grass along my driveway, stops the rain runoff from washing away my grass. My sidewalk slants downhill. The rains of my house travels down it and hits this area with force. If they don't let this grow back, this gap will become very, very wide, and I don't want that, and eventually I'll have to hole there. Jeff Toller, and he included pictures that I've included. The last one is Down to Earth knows how to edge a corner without chipping the paver. I sent a pic previously that shows that. This isn't the first. Matt hasn't done anything about my complaints, which is why I called the office today to complain. This is on June 22nd. I'd also like to complain about the soft edging, that they never completely soft edge around my entire house, and the soft edges is not being done over the week. Pictures below, which we shared, shows they edged, then stopped short of going completely around my house. This is from Elaine Dillon, 2629 Vario. Jerry, Good day. I am the owner of the property located at 2629 Vario Court. I am not pleased with our landscaping job. The workman needs to pull the weeds and dry palm leaves whenever they perform work at this location. I also have a tree at the front of the yard that needs trimming, as this tree constantly drains some sort of brown stain on my car, which prevents me from parking my car in the driveway. I have shown the workmen the high weeds and trash on the palm trees near the AC equipment located at the front of the yard. This has not changed. Please assist urgently. Thank you. This is from David Ott, 2714 Vario Court. Turf. When they cut grass, they are going too fast. The ground is not level, and the rate of speed causes the mower to bounce up and down, so there is rarely an even cut. They sometimes miss an area because, in my opinion, they are going too fast and not paying close enough attention to what they are doing. Attached are pictures, which we've shared, of the fence where they ran into it during today's cutting. When is the damage to fence going to be fixed, and what will be done to prevent this in the future? Edging and string trimming. The first item in the contract states edging of all turf grass areas next to curbs, streets, sidewalks, bike paths, beds, lakes, and borders shall be completed during each service. The next item states all plants, beds, and boundary areas are to be edged every other service. I would like clarification on which is true regarding the beds. They certainly don't do it every time they cut, and they don't always do it every other time. What can be done to correct this inconsistency? When they do edge the beds, the edger kicks out of the mulch onto the grass. Item 5 states, dirt, trash, and debris resulting from edging operations shall be removed, and all areas shall be cleared before the end of the day. This never happens. The day of the work is done, I go on my property and rake the mulch back into the beds. What can be done to make down-to-earth landscaping fulfill their contract? Fertilization. I'm not a landscaper, but I always thought that when you're using granular fertilization, you are supposed to spread it on the ground around the shrubs. They drive through and dump the fertilizer on the plants, not around them. Is this an acceptable way to fertilize the shrubs? These are not just my issues. My neighbors are frustrated too. Almost every time down-to-earth landscaping finishes a job, we have to go out and clean up after them. And there's attached pictures which we've shared with the company. And this is from Marlene Poirier, 2499 Woodbourne Place. Jerry and the board, we would like to know why Down to Earth was allowed to let our landscape get overgrown to the point of ridiculous. Also, why did I have to get in touch with Matt and his boss AJ to get some answers? This service is part of the HOA dues It should be taken care of by the administration. We were told that they had been short of help from the pandemic since a lot of staff went into unemployment, but AJ agreed that was not our fault. Are we getting a rebate for the reduction in service? We used to get a landscape trim 8 times a year per contract. In this loose and generalized contract, there is no number stated. Guess that means that we can get the disgusting place where everything is overgrown to the max. Why is this happening? Marlene Poirier. And that concludes the emails that were sent in to the association, which were again shared with Down to Earth Landscaping. So at this point, Tom or AJ, if one of you guys want to respond.
Sure, no. So good evening, Tom Conley, I'm the Regional Vice President and have been involved with Sandoval from the start of our contract. AJ Price is our local branch manager, and we actually, after some careful consideration, we decided, sorry, yes, all right. So we actually decided not to invite your account manager to the meeting, and moving forward, unfortunately, he will no longer be your account manager. So I just want to start by setting that. I did read all those comments, and I just want to, as far as a timeline, myself and AJ recognized through the feedback we were getting from some residents that was coming directly to us about 3.5 weeks ago that the plans and the scheduling and the things that we put in place and the investment we make in our people and the things that it takes to do the job here at Sandoval, some of those things weren't being completed in a timely fashion. So we came and we met, we surprised Jerry that day, and we were fortunate enough to, he let us in and we had a meeting. In that meeting, we explained to him a different plan that we had come up with for pruning, because since we started, no one's really liked the pruning schedule. We've submitted new schedules, and a couple of you have been there for our meetings to talk about those different ways that we can go about it. And we decided that we wanted to go to what's called a selective prune schedule, which is much different than what we've typically done in here. We do it on many other properties, and we thought that that would be more successful. So we drove the property that day with Matt and AJ and myself. We expressed that plan to Jerry, and we instituted that plan. Unfortunately, over the last 3 weeks, from what we've seen, the implementation of that plan has not been there, so the residents have not seen the results of a selective prune cycle versus a continuous prune cycle. That being said, again, there's a lot there in those letters, and most of which I'd just like to frankly say, look, I'm sorry the residents feel that way. We come out here, we want to do our job, go home, want to feel prideful and good about our job, and we want the residents to be happy with what they come home to. And we genuinely mean that, and I think we've had some meetings and we've changed some things, and we heard it loud and clear when we initially negotiated the contract with the prior management. The fertilization wasn't being done, and there were very specific deficiencies that we took seriously. We came in, and I think at least you can see that. There's the one comment about how the fertilizer is laid, but the grass and the health of the plants, the rate of the growth, we've gotten all that turned around. Many of the items in here, there was whole neighborhoods that were chlorotic and yellow. And again, I'd love to say that they had a million weed problems, which we, of course, I think today have as well. So I'm not going to say that we've cured that. But I will say that we focused heavily on the nutrition of the property. And then, was it 4 weeks ago, the shrub? Or was it, how long ago was that? 8 weeks ago?
With the shrub fertilization, yeah. It was about 6 weeks ago.
So 6 weeks ago, we put down the heavy application before the summer blackout season of the shrub fertilization. And what you're seeing right now across the board is a massive explosion of growth. And unfortunately, fertilizer and nutrients don't distinguish between the shrub we want versus the weed we don't. So we are getting a massive amount of growth, and that's not an excuse. I just wanted you to know that it was done, and it was done in a manner in which we're keeping the nitrogen levels where they're supposed to be, we're keeping the potassium levels where they need to be, and we focused heavily on nutrition. We truly believe that the cycle that we have put in place 3 weeks ago that wasn't being delivered upon, which is why the two of us are here tonight. We want to commit to you guys and the community that we believe this will work. It works successfully for us on many other properties. And I'll explain a little bit about what it is so they understand what I mean. So there's a couple different ways you can trim. You can start in one corner, and let's call it there's 600 homes. And you start at 1 and you end at 600. And that's the cycle you go on. And that typically works as long as everybody's okay with the length of time in which that takes. And that's been a lot of pushback in here. It was discussed initially when we put it together, but it obviously hasn't worked. So selective prune is per plant variety. So you have many different plant species out here, some of which grow much faster than others. Bougainvillea as a common example that most people know the name of. This time of year, bougainvillea grow rapidly every week. So what we do is we keep a schedule that's a start point A to point B, which is the whole community. But in between there each week, you have selective pruning teams that go multiple different places. So as an example, for the sake of this conversation, not to complicate it, if we started on week 1 on street 1, we'll also go to street 4 and selectively prune the walkways, the driveways, the more common places we actually get complaints. The stuff's grown over my driveway, or that bougainvillea in the front's just exploded with growth. And we'll selectively prune those back and then cycle back and help out that trim crew that's continuing on the continuous trim. And then as we get to the next street, same thing. We're going to jump forward. We're going to selectively trim. And then manage the calls that we have, because there are some varieties out here that are kind of hit or miss, that aren't a lot of, that grow really rapidly, that we might have to get to more often than that. So what I would like to propose we do to address this, and again, I want to make sure I didn't want to come in here tonight. AJ and I talked about it a lot. We were equally disappointed with the last 3 weeks. I really thought, I didn't even know this meeting was going to take place when he invited us earlier this week. I got the message and I thought to myself, well, we're 3 weeks into our new selective pruning. I think we'll get some good feedback. And then I started seeing the letters. So obviously, it wasn't happening. So we are going to make some management changes. We actually have already begun the process. But in the interim, myself, AJ, and one of our other account managers are going to step in, who's one of our more seasoned production managers. Are going to step in and make sure the selective prune cycle kicks off. So what we'd like to do, Jerry, is we'll submit a new schedule to you of how we process the community, and then what you do with it from there, and how you I'm not sure how this board does it and communicates it to the community, but we're going to submit a new process schedule of how we're going to process the community in regards to the trimming, equally in regards to the weed crew. So the people who are spraying, we invested heavily in the last 3 weeks in a couple new products that control weeds, both from a pre-emergent standpoint. The pre-emergent we were using in here was having almost nil effect. I don't know if that's because the amount of fertilizer we were putting down was just counteracting the effects of the pre-emergent, but we're not getting the control that we expected to get. So we've switched to a different product. I'd be happy to share those products at a later date if you guys want a list of the products. But so we're going to switch to a pre-emergent, a different one, which we've already begun, and we've already begun spraying a different over the top. So you have the weeds that grow up in the shrubs, which are really difficult because you can't just spray them. They have to be pulled. And unfortunately, if you reach in and grab them with some of these dense plants, and you pull it, and you don't get the roots, you actually get 10 times more new weeds. You don't get just that one that grows back. You get several that grow back. So we're coming over the top of those with a selective herbicide that won't damage the plants, combined with the pre-emergent and combined with our regular spraying of weed control. We're going to get this caught up for you. So those are our 2 different changes that we actually had already made after our meeting with Jerry. Jerry was very clear with us last time that the problems that were brought to our attention were continuing, which was upsetting, which is why we decided to switch to a selective prune. As far as the quality of the product, the people who are actually doing. So here's our new schedule. The people who are doing it. That should all be being caught by our team and our management staff that's on site. If we have a guy, which by the way, today here in Sandoval, I can say our crew is not made up of a bunch of people that we just hired. So we have our seasonal people in the summer we bring on. The majority of the crew that's here, if not all of them at this point, are experienced. So it's not lack of knowledge with the person doing the job. It's lack of someone making sure they're doing the job that we're intending to do and you are expecting us to do. So again, back to the management side, we recognize that needs to be addressed immediately, which is exactly what we're going to do. The fertilizer going over the top of the plants, there is, so the only disadvantage to that is we need to blow behind it. But getting some of the hedges that are on site to address that to the resident, some of the hedges that are on site are several feet wide, If you just go around the outside of that and fertilize the mulch that's beside them, the chances of you getting to all of that root system are very slim to none. So we do actually try to cover the plants when we're fertilizing shrubs, similar to the way that when you cover grass, you cover all of the grass. You don't just do bits and pieces of the grass to get the nutrition in. It is equally important, though, that we are behind them spraying that off. I haven't seen damage from that. What that would cause if we didn't is the fertilizer would sit on the plants for a really long time. The nitrogen would eventually break down and burn the plants. That's not been a problem for us in here at all. So I guess to answer the question is it's okay for us to come over the top of the plants with the fertilizer as long as we're coming behind it and blowing it. Our FERT and pest teams are trained in that. FERT and pest technicians are not a revolving door for us as far as labor. They're trained technicians that we've had on staff for a long time. We have much less of them, and the management of them is very direct. So that shouldn't be an issue. Some of these other quality controls, I know Tamara, the email there in regards, I thought most of those items, frankly, were addressed. I know there was a stucco issue. We had a stucco guy out that fixed it. There were a lot of issues on that list. As far as I know, 90% of those issues have been addressed, other than her concern with the tire ruts. So we're continuously working with them. One of the pictures that was seen was on a steep embankment, and unfortunately, with it raining the way that it was, and I don't know if it's going to continue to, we're going to get dry again, but the way that it was raining, those banks, we got to cut them, so we kind of play it by ear, and you've seen there's been a couple times we've gone into the pond. Yes, and we don't want to let it get out of control to the point where you know, we have to bring in a bush hog to cut it, but at the same time we want our people to be safe, and we don't want to rut it up. So telling the guys to slow down, we will make sure now that this is going to be managed more well, it was already being managed more closely. It was not being the things that we put in place were not being acted upon in the right way. So we will make sure that they're going at the right speed with the mowers, which is a common thing that we're constantly training our people on. They're trying to get the job done. They're trying to get it done as fast as we're telling them it needs to be done. But at the same time, we're never telling guys to go faster than they should go and do damage. And then we have, in many occasions, there was a comment with we killed 10 shrubs. We at Down to Earth, and regardless, at one time we're Florida Evergreen, our culture is we do what's right. If we damage something and we're aware of it and that wasn't being addressed and fixed right away, I'm sorry that ever happened, but that is not our policy. Our policy is if we do it, we fix it. We fixed the stucco the second that was brought to our attention. We had a stucco guy out to fix it. If our guys do damage something, we're very open about it. We encourage them to tell us right away. We don't punish them unless it's some sort of crazy neglect. We just want to know about it so that we can fix it. The one gentleman there said the tree trimmers, and that wasn't even in the letters, but we had the tree trimmers in here trimming. One of the tree trimmers, I guess, had stompled. The bush was not dead, but it had been, debris had fallen on it from trimming the trees. We immediately replaced those plants. We are not afraid to come out here and warranty damage that we've done or caused. So we stand by our work, and we will make mistakes. We try not to make mistakes, but if we do, we stand by them. So if that's been something that happened, or if those 10 plants that are in that letter are still dead, we will take care of that. Couple things I want to point out that I heard in the feedback. Oftentimes I've seen over the last couple months in some messaging that there's a lot of texts and emails that go directly from a lot of residents directly to Matt. And whether or not that was our account manager that started that culture or the customer, I don't know how it happened. But when we first took on the property, and maybe this is a bigger conversation for a later date, we implemented a program called Max Panda on site. Are all of you familiar with that? Is that the work order? The work order system. Okay, so what we'd like to do is just ask everybody, ask the community today, that starting today, any of these issues, please go in there, because I police that, AJ polices that, we use that as reports. We use that to hold our account managers accountable. That's one of the tools, the many tools that we have other than riding through the property and walking the property with our teams. We look that up, and if there's 12 items that haven't been closed, we immediately are asking our account managers, what's happening, why haven't you got to these issues? And some of these things that I heard, I shot a text and he never got it done, those were outside of the system. So, you know, I'm not blaming the resident whatsoever. Our account manager should have done it, but the account manager is one person, then you got the crew leads, and you have the day-to-day. We want to make sure we're there to pick up if something is missed. And then equally, if we see things being closed out that we don't like the way that those situations are being handled, whether it be, well, we're gonna, I heard in a phone call I had with a resident, they said, well, I was told it was blocking, the bush was blocking the sign to my house. And I was told, well, the schedule will be there in 3 weeks. Not acceptable. And I'm sorry that anyone was ever told that. If the sign to your house and you call 911, you need help, and they can't see the number on your home, obviously that's something a separate selective crew should have come over and done. And the way that we've reorganized the labor in here, that selective crew will now be more available. The account manager should go trim it in that instance. Like there's no reason. No one in this company, I'll grab a trimmer if I need to. No one in the company is above doing the hard work. That we train everyone that way. Our people know that. But at the same time, they have to manage their people. So I think I addressed the mowers. The edging. So the edging is exactly, oops, sorry, hopefully I didn't just blow everybody's eardrum. The edging is exactly how we've listed it in there. So it's the hard edges are done every week and the soft edges are done every other week. That should be what's being done, and we'll make sure of that now that we've heard that feedback. That's exactly what should be being done. There was a continued struggle from the beginning of the contract way back to shouldn't be today, but we'll make sure of that. What tool is to be used for that process? It's come up many times in this community for some reason. And some of our crews have a habit of listening to homeowner a direction rather than our direction. The proper technique is a edger. There's a tool that we buy. It's an expensive tool that's specifically made for edging. That should be used for all edging. Oops. That's hard edges along the concrete. That's also soft edges along the bushes, that tool should be used. They should not be turning weed eaters upside down and trying to do it sideways with string trimmers. So we'll make sure that that's the process. That's what they're equipped with it. We buy new ones every year for this property. We've bought equipment for this property twice already. So there's no excuse, and that's exactly what we'll do. So I heard that come up on one of the, in one of the letters. Let's see. Fertilizer, the crew speaking directly to the, and I would ask again, and I know no harm, no foul. Our crews, oftentimes, they're going to yes everyone to death. And I prefer that they do that than tell everybody no. But unfortunately, a lot of our crews, if a homeowner comes out, they're going to say yes to almost anything. But that doesn't mean that was the crew lead. It doesn't mean that he's going to go back and tell the account manager. We would love it in an ideal world if they could all communicate that well. But that's why we have that system, Max Panda, that if there are issues, it gets to the right people. We have visibility into it along with Jerry.
Max Panda?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So
Okay.
your work order system is called Max Panda.
Okay,
You
that's
might not
helpful.
even know that till you actually go to the site to do it,
Right.
but it's just the link
Okay.
on your website that we put on when we took over.
And that directly went to Matt, or it goes to a general file that you have access to?
No,
Because
that-
we'll have to change it in our system if that's necessary.
It goes directly to Matt, the way we have it, and we can change that on our end. Our
Okay.
IT team changes
Okay,
it.
very good.
It goes directly to Matt, and then we would do a weekly report. Now, AJ, as the branch manager, logs in daily to Max Panda on all of our accounts
Okay,
to
good.
check those things. From a high-level perspective, usually once a week on our larger properties, which this is one of our valued properties of larger size, we will, as regional leadership, we will go in there once a week and make sure that the work orders are being kept up on. And the way that we do our bonus structure for our account managers is based on how they're managing and being held accountable to their work order system. So that's why it's so important from all aspects for, one, our customer service being where it should be, and two, us being able to manage our people in the right way that people use the program. And if for some reason they don't want to do it that way, we need to go, we can have that discussion. But I do think everybody would be happier with the response time if they're using the system.
Right.
And we can pull the weekly reports on it too to see what's opened, what's pending, what's been completed for that week every week. And we do get the census every single week per property.
Yep.
Well,
I can share that with
Anyone in Sandoval?
It does not, so we can allow access, so Jerry can have access and gets a weekly report.
Okay.
We do have properties that,
I think that'd be very important.
yes, oh, of course, yes. And we can create access. We typically have never created it outside of for the board. So the board and the property manager usually will want access. Some do, some don't. Some just want the property manager to have the access. But again, the purpose is what we could formalize, and maybe it would be helpful to Jerry, and I'm throwing out ideas, is that weekly report, we could go back, and as long as everybody's using the system, we'll submit the weekly
Right.
report, and maybe we can share the weekly report if people want to hold us accountable to that. But
Yeah.
it's very important to us.
We'll get a communication out to the residents, those that have the down-to-earth services too, highly encouraging them to use the work order system.
And we plan, AJ and I plan to retrain our staff too.
Okay,
So
that's
I
good.
think based on what I've seen and heard, it's not just a resident, it's our teams as well.
Mm-hmm.
They have a habit of just communicating amongst themselves and not redirecting people. Yes, ma'am, I'll take care of it right away, but please make sure you put it into the issue track program so that in case
Mm-hmm.
somebody forgets to come back. That's how we catch our mistakes.
Can I tell you, I think that I can speak for a lot of homeowners, the frustrations, I think Melanie might share this well, with the work order system. I think that in a perfect world, if we were doing a good job out here consistently, I think it would work. But I think the frustration comes from, I think everybody bought into it at first. And if they didn't, we still forwarded them to this work order system. But I think the experience has been for a lot of people, a couple of things. One, whatever the issue is, just keeps happening, and then they just get like, why in the world am I sending a work order for them to do basic service that should be happening and caught by a supervisor out in the field? And I think a little bit of that is acceptable, but I think we're at a point now where some people are absolutely tired at this point of putting in more work orders for things that they think at this point should just be done.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that seems to be one of the biggest frustrations, I think, is, and we have heard over and over, submit a work order, submit a work order. Well, basically, you've just told me just to set a calendar reminder. Every 2 weeks, I'm submitting a work order to have weeds and, grass and everything addressed. And the problem with the work order, like Jerry had said, is that should be the exception. It shouldn't be the standard of, if you want your bushes trimmed, submit a work order. Like, that should be an exception to our regular process. And it doesn't work that way right now.
So agreed. So I hear you loud and clear on that, Jerry. And I believe with the different pruning schedule that we're going to submit to you based on a selective prune cycle, I think a lot of those basic problems that we're referring to should be the abnormal thing. And then what you'll start to see is maybe they didn't. So with the selective pruning, we're going to be pruning based on the needs of the plant. So some of those plants that we jump ahead and prune, if it's about to go into blooming cycle and it's a little bit hairy, we're going to allow it to bloom. Versus just the process where everything gets trimmed. If we're there, everything gets trimmed, which some people like. But the selective prune allows the plants to be a little bit more natural, but not out of control. And then the ones that need to be pruned more aggressively get pruned more aggressively. And my hope with that is that the work order system will be used the way it should be. I see
Right.
what happened. I mean, people probably got frustrated with the work order system and went outside of the work order system because, hey, it wasn't getting done. Or vice versa, like you said. So
Right.
we hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
I do have a question too, though, because one of the times when we were talking to the account supervisor, he had basically said that there's various people that come out. There's a cutter, and he just cuts. And then there's a trimmer, and they just trim. And, like, they're only focused on that one area. But there's nobody that's coming back and saying, but the grass they're driving over is completely dead. Like, there's nothing coming back and reporting the quality of what's happening. Is that some of what you're going to be able to address now,
Correct.
being on site?
That
Okay.
is absolutely our account manager's job. That's why he's the account manager. He's accountable for the account. And they are heavily trained in quality, in fert and pest, in disease, nutrition. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time training our people.
Okay.
And most of our people and account managers have been with us a really long time. And those are not typical issues that we have. So yes, crew leads are incentivized for those things, which was this year. We started incentivizing them for that, along with their account manager. That communication should be there, and then the oversight. And what we recently, at least, let's talk about the last couple months. The issues that are there, there haven't been a lot of nutrition issues, but the other issues that are there have been seen loud and clear and retrained, and extra labor, and start here and end there. And the execution of that work has just not happened, and especially the last 3 weeks when we decided to switch to a different cycle. Extra labor, way above the budgeted labor. All of those things have happened, and yet the result in the last week, as I read these letters and we drove the property and we looked at things, it's just not there. Even the street that was just done was that we had to have them come back and do it again and send in a different crew to do it again. So the people in here are going to do the work. They can do the work. They just need a little bit more management. And I think we can turn this around really quickly. I really do.
What's,
Don?
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple comments. My comments are on weeds in the beds. I watched several houses. I watch houses on Anguilla, Belleville, Greendale, and I'll just go through a couple. The one on Anguilla, the homeowner, I took pictures. The homeowner turned in a work order. When they trimmed the bushes, they trimmed his bougainvillea and cut all the ties. And he wrote a work order and said to get those put back on. Well, it wasn't done. Then it was done. And then there's just weeds all over. And then when they trimmed the bushes, there were some right by the front door that they didn't trim, and they're still not trimmed. So then Jerry came out and took pictures. Allison stopped by and took pictures. And then the bougainvillea got tied, and then there still were the weeds all over the place, and there still were these bushes that were, 3 feet untrimmed, and then the weeds were started to grow into the screen. And so he put in another work order, and now you've come back, and we've gotten that one taken care of, and so that turned out, decent. The house on Clairfont, I think. There were lots of weeds in the beds in the front. And the neighbor, who is not here now, the weeds had grown over the sidewalk, all the way completely over the sidewalk. The house on Belleville, there had weeds starting to show up in the beds, but the house right next door, where the homeowner was also gone, had a vine that was growing over all the palm trees, there were 2. It was growing up on the screen. It was growing up all on the bushes on the way to the house. Now, I don't see how the account manager wouldn't see these things, and these people are not home, so it just got worse and worse and worse. The house on Greendale, there's a fire bush that is not theirs, but the one on the next property, it is so big that it's halfway over the sidewalk. It doesn't need a trim. It needs to be totally cut back like we do with some of the general landscaping. So, I mean, that bush grows like crazy. I understand
Sure does.
that.
Well, this time of year, yeah.
Well,
Especially
just a trim, 2 weeks later, it's all big. So my main observation is that I don't see any attention to the weeds. And then they start getting bigger, and and then you put a weed killer on them, but that turns them yellow a little bit, but it doesn't really solve the problem. And when I'm looking at the houses that I'm watching, plus these neighbors' houses, which it just doesn't look like anybody's looking at it. And I think that it's the responsibility of if you're the account manager, you need to go look at these houses, and I don't see that happening.
Well,
Right.
I agree with you 100%.
So I don't mean to poo-poo it, but I sent Allison had all those pictures and of the things that I'm discussing here, but I'm sticking up for the homeowners because they're not here. So I'm their voice.
Yep. No, and I appreciate you doing that, and I'm sorry you have to do that. I truly mean that. I can genuinely tell you, we take care of a lot of properties. We budget them all the same. We have the same process. The only difference is selective or not. The chemicals are the same. We don't look at any property and say, well, they pay us this much or they pay us that much. We have one process, one training program. And we're happy to share that, to show you that if anybody questions whether it can be done, it absolutely can be done. We have an excellent reputation for quality. So all these things you're saying are very frustrating. And shame on us, I guess, for not making some of these decisions a little faster with some of these things.
What happens is now, once that you've gotten a reputation that there's trouble here, it's not just a matter of getting it well. You got a big uphill battle. It's got to be more than well, so that they know that you can do it.
We have to earn back their trust.
You do.
We're going to do that.
Trust is hard to earn back. You give the person the benefit of the doubt, but then once you've lost trust, it's very difficult to get it back the second time.
I don't mean to keep belaboring the point, but as the landscape liaison for the board, I'm working with Allison constantly on this account and the other account that we have, and with Jerry. And I was the previous chairman of the landscape committee, and I own my landscape company previously. So I understand clearly what you were saying, especially with the things that we know in our business, that ruts are a speed issue with the mowers. We need to slow them down. This is the season where things grow. Weeds grow. They grow at a rapid rate. Not saying that it's anyone's fault, but just to give an example, as people have had before, 2730 Vareo is a listing that I have as a realtor. And Jerry was out one day with myself, and Matt was out at that property. And I can tell you that those weeds probably hadn't been pulled, and this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. They probably hadn't been pulled since the growing season started. And Matt said, well, they're starting to grow right now. And I'm like, Matt, I'm calling a foul on this one. I could tell you that when they're this high and this big around, they have not been pulled or sprayed or whatever. So the notion that we're using selective herbicides and different products, I could buy into, but that they're being used and effective, I take exception with, because this same property that he went out and pulled weeds to get it to a certain level are back now in between the cracks where they're this high and this wide. So the crew, obviously, we're doing our mow, blow, and go, but no one's following up with a backpack sprayer if that, in fact, is your policy, that there's a guy who either trades in a string trimmer, puts on the backpacker, or that's solely his job.
Solely their job.
Then obviously throughout the community, that person isn't doing their job. And as the crew lead, if they were the job boss on mine, I'd be making sure at the end of the day, I'm walking the property to make sure that all of those tasks were done. And we've heard it before that they're not getting done, but the residents that we get all these emails from don't want to hear it anymore. And I understand your plight because I've been in your shoes. Not as big as a company, but these are all generic, whether you're a 1-man or a 100-man or a 1,000-man. So, I just look at it and saying, okay, first of all, I wish when I had my business that I could have created a contract like you guys drew up a couple of years ago, because that is so slanted and lucrative on your part, to be honest with you. But this is what we have to deal with right now. And I just don't see at this point, maybe moving forward, but I don't see at this point that anybody has held up their end of the bargain for Sandoval and the residents of Sandoval. And that's where my frustration comes in. And whether it was, Matt had to go somewhere else and we're bringing new people in. But, I was at Mr. Schweiker's property in the rain one evening. He called me and I went out to look at this. And the trim job that was done was just sophomoric. If somebody was on my crew and did a trim job like that and didn't do behind the bushes, left all the debris on top of the bushes, they would have been fired that day. And then I would have probably looked at your crew lead and said, why didn't you walk that property to see why that was left that way? Actions speak louder than words here, and we're getting a lot of promises, but up till today, nothing has been delivered. And unfortunately, the contract is written so is that we're kind of stuck with it, and you guys get an exemplary amount of time to fix it. And I just don't see anything turning the corner right now where I could say, DTE is our go-to guy, and next time we do an RFP, I hope they apply for it.
Okay. So thank you for that. By the way, I appreciate your honesty, and I truly mean that. So everything you just said is not wrong, and it's just not who we are. And I know I could stand up here and sell you on a million things that we can do, and that's not what I wanted to do. I had a completely different approach plan to this until we started really digging in on what we specifically had laid out 3 weeks ago and it not being done. So I would like to suggest that if we could work, AJ and I work directly with you, if that's your role to the community over the next till the end of July, so that you can actually hopefully come back and speak for us with us to the action, so you see the action. I don't want to tell you any more words. I do want to show you exactly what we can do and what we frankly have been investing in here, and it's just the result is not there.
Right.
Which is scary.
And I think the best thing in my view is probably follow. I'm a chain of command kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the chain of command is right there with our GM.
Sure. Okay.
And Allison, who is our landscape liaison. And I take the approach that if somebody comes to Jerry and somebody comes to a board chair, and then I'm the liaison and it gets to me and it hasn't been taken care of at those two levels, that's where I'll get involved. I don't want to get involved as a board member for something that's a function of our management company and our volunteer. But Allison and Jerry have always kept me in a loop, and this is to the point where it has come to where they have done their head banging for 5 months and nothing has come to fruition. And when it comes to me, this is the part where I'm like, all right, now we seriously have a problem where I have to get involved. So I appreciate that offer, but I'm sure Jerry and Allison will keep me in the loop and apprised of everything, but I think it's more a function of our GM to handle it.
So Jerry, we'll follow up with you. So we'll submit new schedules to you, schedules of how we're going to process it. And I will work with you, AJ will work with you, so we can decide who can be our point person for the accountability aspect, so you can see the change. We would like to.
I think Allison is the one that knows what's going on with the landscaping.
Okay.
She spends probably 80 hours a week out there with you and with Crawford, and she knows the houses, and when people complain, she calls them up, she writes some emails, she goes and looks at it. So I would say, if you need one point of contact, Jerry is a good contact, but I think Allison's your landscape expert.
Yeah, and I'm only saying that because I'd like to have a conduit back to you guys, so that you're hearing back some of the action that's being taken, so that hopefully we can reverse that.
So along those lines, I just have a couple of questions. So from a timeline perspective, obviously we appreciate you coming in and addressing some of this stuff. It's unfortunate that it's gotten to this point, but hopefully we can make some changes and get past this. What is an acceptable timeline in your mind on when we should actually, from residents, start to see that improvement?
The action being taken? Yeah, you should be getting completely different feedback by the end of July. That
Okay.
allows us to cycle it, selectively prune, see that selectively prune. So it's not to say that in the end of July, August is our biggest growing month of the year. It's always a struggle, July, August, but a lot of what we're talking about is outside of a normal struggle. A lot of what we're talking about, weeds 2 feet tall, that's not a normal struggle, that's an out of control struggle. So I do really believe that we'll turn the tides, and that you guys will be able to say.
We've seen this same problem.
Yep.
All year, not just the growing season.
Yeah, no, it's all.
Yeah.
Let me get back to, just if I could circle back to your selective pruning. Love the idea, right? Because again, if we're pruning bougainvillea when they're growing, we're trimming the bloom off of them because they bloom on their growth, through new growth, most of them. So I like that idea of where you're going in and do it specifically, because I'm not a square box kind of guy. I don't think everything should look that way. But are we at least in the spring or early spring? Are we still going to do our hardest prune then, or are we just going to prune as we're in there?
Well, the hard cuts, when we hard cut in the property, it's throughout all the months. So our hard cuts actually begin toward the end of June. So right now is when you start to prune the spring bloomers. Right. Usually starting this week and into next week is the beginning of hard cut season for us. And what that is the slower growers that are bloomers in the spring. So they're not going to bloom all summer. This is when you hard cut them, so that next spring you get the blooms. Bougainvillea really are typically, you will see a flower on a bougainvillea, but they're a winter bloomer. They like dry heat, and that's when they bloom. In the summer, they're just an aggressive grower. They really just become a nuisance to us in the summer. So those are ones that you'll see us constantly pruning, and usually in the summer, we don't worry about flowers, we're just cutting them. Right. And then there are stuff like hibiscus, which, again, in here, I think as long as we're communicating with one person and we're communicating better and letting them know, the prunes that we typically make on hibiscus are very aggressive. They're done later in the summer, midsummer. But we've had a little bit of pushback as to how aggressive we were, that we're killing plants and things like that the last time we went to cut hibiscus. But the proper technique for them to be full, lush, and beautiful and blooming next winter would be to make those hard cuts in the summer. And if people are here, probably more so than ever have been probably this summer, because they don't want to go to other states right now, they might, you might hear a little bit of pushback on that. But that'd be something, that's an educational thing, and that's what we'd rather get it to. Max Panda, we log in, we see a work order, it says they killed my hibiscus, they cut them to the ground. That's an opportunity for us to educate people on the proper pruning techniques for those plants. So each one will be more of selectively pruned for the plant type that it is. Some are hard cut with shears, some are hard cut with loppers and hand pruners. And they're all done a little bit differently, but you're right. We're just approaching our hard cut season right now.
First off, do you disagree with any of the issues raised by the residents tonight?
Well,
is it fair to say that you have not met the expectations under the contract to date?
I didn't say, I said well, I didn't say no. So what I was going to say, when it specifically to the residents' complaints, I didn't want to come in and go through those letters one by one without admitting some fault. So the weeds, the schedule in which people are unhappy with the pruning cycle that we have, I completely agree with them, and it's unacceptable. Any issues that there were in those letters, specifically pertaining to neglect, as far as we killed 10 plants, as long as we were made aware of that, we should have made that right, and we typically do, and we have examples of that. But I'm not disagreeing that those are issues with the out of control weeds, no. But some of them, yes, but I didn't want to get into a situation where I'm arguing with a resident that's not here about a particular issue.
Well, also I'm speaking specifically to each issue that Gary raised tonight. I understand they were through resident letters, but we all heard them, and they seem quite extensive. Are you saying that some of those issues aren't legitimate?
No, I'm saying some of them are legitimate and some of them aren't legitimate, such as the fertilizer technique, that's not legitimate. Whether or not they did or didn't do the every other week, it wasn't that they were sure. There were things in those letters that I'm not so sure are 100% true, but again, I'm not here to call anyone a liar. I'm here to admit that we want to do it differently and do a better job, and we're going to start doing that. And specifically, the things that seem to be the biggest reoccurring issue are the out of control weeds, which we are admitting, you're right. And the way in which we trim the cycle, which we're admitting that the property doesn't like it and doesn't want it that way, and we're going to change it. We're not admitting that we're not doing what we said we would do from the beginning.
And rutting.
I'm sorry?
And rutting.
Oh, rutting, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and some of the rutting, like I said when we were addressing that specifically, a rutting on an embankment when it's raining is not something sometimes that's controlled. Some rutting is caused by going too quickly. We did address, so the one resident wanted us to buy a different mower. We went and bought the different mower, and we are using that mower.
Ron, before you continue, I wanted to talk about that just a little bit more too, is that I'm actually the one that asked ultimately or almost demanded to get that smaller mower.
Yeah.
Because I was being called out repetitively, Tamara and a few other owners. And so what my expectation would be, and what was happening is these tree rings, right, would just get bigger and bigger and bigger because of the rutting, the way they would hit the corner. And so what my expectation would be is if you rut, hey, everybody understands that, but we need to get that sod replaced immediately so these issues don't continue and those beds don't get bigger and bigger and bigger.
So we will do that. And then did the board see the response from the last one with the ruts? So Tamara had sent a bunch of photos with the ruts in the grass, and then we went there a day later? The next day when the sun had come up.
That was corrected, thank
so
you.
So when it's pouring out sometimes, and there's heavy amounts of rain and we mow, it's not always that they're damaged. It's that you will see what looks like mud ruts from where we just went. But what that is, as you know, it's coming to the surface because the soil at the surface has been loosened. So it's coming up, and the type of grass that is here, it lays down.
I think that's more of an aesthetic issue, whereas
Yeah.
I think the ones more concerning are the ones that are actually
Correct,
digging.
and we
Yeah.
have replaced sod for those issues.
right.
And if that happens again, which we'll continue to coach them, we will continue to replace them if it happens again.
Proactively is what we would like to see,
Correct.
rather than people have to put in work orders and get management involved. I mean, you rut it, fix it. So,
Yep.
okay.
The expectation of the homeowner is that it's going to be done in a real quality way, and that you're going to quality control it without them having to put in a work order to get the job done. I mean, the work order should be the last result, not the first result if you're not happy.
That was Melanie's point. Each and every time, again, from a continuity standpoint, that
The work order system is a good, yeah, you're right, for the standard stuff. And again, there will be something then, and oftentimes it should just be an educational point, like, why didn't you prune that? Well, here's the reason we didn't. It's about the flower or whatever. And then there are things such as the way that the reason we like it is, are we getting to the issues? Say there's an irrigation issue, and the resident says, I think I have a leak. Like, we need to jump on that, and if our guys aren't jumping on it.
But they're having to do that for things the weeds that I think you should see yourself.
Correct.
for the routine and
I agree with
obvious.
What you guys are saying. So I'm going to create a different map for you guys in a new calendar that shows you what week of the month to expect. So we're doing the selective, we're focusing on, let's just say, Greendale Woodburn this week. Then back to like what you said, week 1, week 4. Kayes is going to be pruned before they move from Greendale to Hopefield. They're going to jump over to Kayes, or the selective prune crew is going to do that this week as well. So you'll see, and I can color code it accordingly. So what that's going to cut down on, and on there too, it's going to show you with your Roundup. So your Roundup crew is going to be following these trim cycles, and I'll make sure that that's very clear for you guys, so it can get rid of those work orders on Max Panda. Hey, my bushes need to be trimmed. I need my weed control. They can just look at that month's calendar and say, okay, I'm not going to send the work order because they're coming on Thursday next week. So that might help out that issue that you guys are having as well. And I'll personally make that. And I might amend it the first couple weeks as I start digging into this a little bit closer. But I have familiarized myself with the property, over the last few months.
Do we think as a board it might be a good idea, like we did with the Lakes Committee, where we would either, interview someone through our communications committee and maybe have a representative, either of you two or whomever you decide, to maybe do a 2 or 3 minute segment that we could put out to the community through the communications committee that kind of just enumerates some of the things you went on. Here's what we're doing with our selective pruning. Here's our reasoning. Here's this and that.
I'd be happy to help you publish that.
I think
we would love that. We have communities that we have an e-blast that goes out, but everybody has different kind of rules on that. But we typically will do, in some communities, it's a monthly, this is what's happening this season. Army worms usually hatch. We're going to be, please let us know if for some reason you see this or.
Do you, if you have them and provide them, you just need to get them to us and we can get them published.
Is that Jerry?
No,
Work through me on that. And
Okay.
We'll do a series of things, whether it's a pre-made video or there's videoing you talking about the
Do you
cycles
want
of-
monthly or quarterly? How would you prefer?
Monthly.
right
Monthly.
now, as frequent as possible. You're trying to turn the curve here.
Better.
Yeah, oh, yeah, good, yeah. So we can give updates on our schedule each week as well, like we said. So part of what we did see in just verbal feedback, because I have talked to Allison a few times about these specific things, what is just going back to the schedule. Well, we're not here. Well, we're just gonna. That's really not the answer you should get, and it's not the answer you'll get going forward. The schedule is a tool in which we communicate to our crews and to the community. This is what our plan of action is. It starts pouring out. These bushes took too long. There are always these things that are going to happen, and really we should just be communicating them to you, which is what we thought was going on. And good or bad. We're in the wintertime, oftentimes we say, hey, we're 3 streets ahead. In the summertime, hey, we fell behind it, we got rained out. Or we applied the weed control on Monday and Tuesday, and both days we got rained out. We're switching to applying only in the mornings next week, so we avoid the rains. These are all different tools that we use to do it. Because I can tell you, in the last 3 weeks, we spent a ton on chemical, and you're right, I don't see the effect. So it's either an application issue or a rain out issue.
I'll have you guys meet with myself and Allison and Doug, who's
Okay.
our communications chairperson, and we can put together a really good program.
Yeah,
Great.
and I do have internal weekly updates over the last couple of months, so we can actually go through and I can follow, I can trace what's been done and how it's going to be done moving forward.
Okay.
So.
And I think
A method of getting information out. You provide us the information that you think is appropriate, and we'll work with you with that.
Okay.
what has been on your other properties, what has been your feedback or your policy on hand pulling weeds? Do you do it, or are you just using herbicides on all of your weeds?
Well, it's a combination. We do pull, so once it gets to a certain size, it needs to be hand pulled or treated selectively with a herbicide. The downside to some of these herbicides, as you know, is a lot of them didn't exist a long time ago. They're very selective, and because of the rates you have to go at, it's multiple applications to get the control. The upside, which means someone's seeing those weeds throughout that process, which is why you go to pulling. The downside to some of the weed varieties you have in Sandoval right now that have exploded with growth is that if you hand pull those, you get twice as many. So yes, for that day, the homeowner looks like we did something, but like you're in your example, prime example, 2 weeks later, the same weeds are back and they're vigorous. That's what we try to do with the selective herbicides. But again, it has to be done in a way that, one, it's communicated. So, hey, today we treated with selective herbicide over the shrubs these plants. You will expect to see that dying within the next 2 weeks. And then if it's not dying, then we did something wrong.
Right, and I think though what people, unfortunately, what people see as a homeowner is that they're going to go to a big box store and buy something that kills that weed in 24 hours, right? And it's not selective, and they see that. Where in the industry, we're using X, Y, and Z product that has that duration to kill, and I think that message is also something that needs to get out to the people, because we don't want to use those products that are going to give you 24-hour kill rate because of the collateral damage that it's going to have on other things. So
Correct.
again, that's a message that we need to get out to our people. It's going to take you time to see this happen, and then we can do pre and post emergence and all that other sort
The
of stuff.
pre-emergent we just switched to, I could share the details on that with you on a separate note, but the pre-emergent we just switched to in the last couple of weeks in here is as long as we continuously get everything treated like we're saying we're going to do, that pre-emergent has shown far better results than the pre-emergent we were using. It's a newer pre-emergent.
In granular form.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions before we let these guys go? Rod?
This is Bill Tubb. I do.
Bill, go ahead.
Would you confirm that you just said that you did replace the sod in the areas that were depicted in Tamara Ballisic's photographs?
No. That's not what I said. So the one of the recent, and again, there's been multiple, but the one of the recent ones that we saw that Jerry showed with us 3 weeks ago was, or what was it? No.
This one was.
This last week.
And I came Tuesday.
Yeah. So I actually the most recent one, which might be that one. Those photos, the most recent photos we saw, I think that was on Monday. Those were the ones that we went and inspected because it shouldn't have happened again. So we immediately came out the next day and inspected. When we inspected, the grass had all lifted and grown back, other than, which we communicated to Jerry, the rut that was on the embankment toward the lake. All of the other ones had lifted and the ruts were gone.
But in reference to Tamara's email from today, that sod, the couple ruts that are on her house, those are getting replaced next week, along with the bags of mulch. So, and I responded back. I responded back to that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're putting the pre-emergent down in the bed. I want to make sure that it's all the weeds and everything are killed in that area before we put the mulch down. So, I think that's the proper way to do it. Scott would agree.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Anything else from the board? Thank you, Tom and AJ.
Yeah, thank you guys. And again, we really value this partnership. We appreciate the time.
All eyes are on you now.
Yeah, well,
As we said,
we-
action speaks
we-
louder than words.
We appreciate you guys being honest with us and shooting straight.
And thank you for the frankness also
Yeah.
in the discussions and coming out tonight.
Yep, thank you so much.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the rest of your night. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. All right. So next on the agenda, Jerry, were there additional resident comments on agenda
Yes, there
topics
were.
beyond the
Yes,
landscaping?
there were. And for those of you who may be watching, we do have a couple of people that emailed in and for open forum items, which will be handled after the meeting. The other agenda item is from Lori Bernard, and it says, I am sending this email in response to what I feel is becoming pick and choose regulations. The gym is now open with safe distancing restrictions. The equipment is used by multiple people following sterilization procedures, which is what should be done. Today, when I went to the pool, I was told that I could not use my, and I repeat, my exercise weights. My weights are not used by anyone else. We practice safe distancing. My weights never leave my hands, and they are disinfected every day before I come to the pool, in addition to the fact that they are always under the water. Why would these weights pose any health hazard? They are not flotation devices. There are so many true HOA regulations that even when reported are not taken care of. A prime example of this is the use of motorized scooters by minors on both the roadways and Esplanade. The use of scooters, period, is prohibited in our docks, yet nothing has been done to see if this is addressed. Please don't put foolish restrictions on us when we're already trying to adjust to the new normal. So thank you, Lori, and Kathy will be discussing coronavirus initiatives later on in the agenda, and the particular item of water accessories will be discussed at that time. Thank you. Keith Scott, 2630 Stony Hill. I would like to request the board revisit their stand on reopening the pool. The pool should reopen to regular status with appropriate capacity expectations and continue with swim at your own risk status. If you need residents to sign a COVID-19 waiver to do so, then initiate it, but do not limit our access to our amenities. Either have the pool attendants clean each chair as residents leave the pool area, or clean like all other pools are doing in our area at the end of the day or in the morning, as they have been doing. Stop closing the pool at 12:30 to 1:30, as the rainstorms will already close the pool many afternoons. Allow adults to use their floating chairs again, and there is no evidence that the float carries the virus, and multiple studies show that it is nearly impossible to get the virus from a hard surface. Furthermore, studies show that chemicals in the pool kill the virus. Below are links to local pools and parks and their process for dealing with COVID-19. If other public pools can operate without a break and allow individuals to use floats, we should be allowed to use our personal floats. CDC release statement on COVID-19 and treated recreational water venues, bolded underneath. There is no evidence that COVID-19 can be spread to humans through the use of pools, hot tubs, or spas or water playgrounds. Proper operation, maintenance, and disinfection of pools, hot tubs, or spas, and water playgrounds should inactivate the virus that causes COVID-19. Tubes that are used in the river and on slides will be stored upside down in the pools and lazy river due to the fact that chemicals in the water kill the virus. Chairs will be spread out 6 feet apart in groups of 4. In parentheses, 4 is normal family coming into the park. They will be cleaned and sanitized at the end of every day. The pool at the Cape Coral Yacht Club is not only open all day with no midday break, but it then is open for private rentals after 5. Please allow us to exercise our own health and safety decisions as we are informed of risk, and allow us to use amenities we are paying for. And again, this will be discussed in our agenda item later on in the meeting. This is from Alice Pimentel, Clubhouse Room Rental. I hope you are well. As discussed last week, I would like to discuss the topic of the clubhouse rental. I emailed Kathy yesterday as per your recommendation. Not sure she'll respond before Thursday. As I mentioned, now that Lee County has public facilities such as restaurants at full capacity, gyms are open, nail salons, etc., are we able to have a private event at the clubhouse room rental? Thanks so much. And again, we will be discussing these initiatives on an agenda item. So thank you for that input. The other one is for open forum.
For open forum. Okay, super. Thank you. All right. So next on the agenda, does the board have any edits or corrections to the past minute meeting minutes?
When we have the board members listed, there's your name and my name after.
Yeah, I saw it. It was on there twice. Yeah, I caught it too. Thank you. Anybody else?
Would you please tell me that one more time?
Here, under the roll call, Don's name is listed twice.
Well, after your name, it should be president. And then mom listed as a director down at the bottom.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other edits or corrections needed? All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right, Scott. Thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Al, thank you. Al second. Scott
Thank you.
made the motion. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
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 All right. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. All right. Next is the board president report. So, good morning, good evening, residents, and welcome, fellow board members. I'm happy to be here socially distanced with each of you. On behalf of this board, I want to take a moment to extend our congratulations to all the student residents in the class of 2020. How nice to see the various lawn signs identifying and promoting both our students and their schools. They haven't had the easiest path lately, and I was happy to participate along with other board members, I know Al was there, and many residents in our drive-by parade celebrating the 2020 graduates in the community. The resilient class of 2020 will learn and grow from this coronavirus pandemic moving forward, as will all of us. We all know how this COVID virus spreads, and I note within this community, we also saw positive neighbors, goodwill, kindness, and humanity as demonstrated by many of our Sandoval residents over the past weeks and months spread. It's hard to believe we're already into the summer months with all that has transpired this year. 2020 seems to be slipping away, and probably many of us wish we could take a mulligan on this year and just move on. Although here in Southwest Florida and in Sandoval, things have loosened up. Yet recent Lee County reporting shows an uptick with reported cases of the virus and restating of the CDC recommendations calling for social distancing, wearing of masks, and washing of hands. I hope wherever you are safe and staying healthy and doing whatever feels right for you during these times. Residents everywhere are eager to get back to their normal routines after many months of social distancing, working from home, and otherwise limiting contact with anyone other than their immediate family during this pandemic. Is the state of Florida, along with Lee County and Cape Coral, reopen a variety of public services and businesses, and as the onset of warmer weather entices people to parks and beaches and golf courses and pools, the board and the general manager have discussed how and whether to safely reopen our common areas and amenities that were closed. There is more to come on this later in the agenda, as the general manager stated. This included a phased reopening approach, assessing activities and operations, bringing the employees back to work, and ensuring a safe workplace. This holds true today when we talk about onboarding our new Pope employees. On behalf of the board, I am pleased to state that Pope has completed the hiring process to fill the open positions. Our general manager is prepared to make that announcement shortly, in that all new hires are now on board. At last month's board meeting, I assured you that Pope had an ambitious staffing plan in place. This included a back to basics approach, with reviewing job descriptions, standard operational procedures, as well as the onboarding and orientation process. Making every employee feel comfortable and familiar with their new surroundings is the best way to start a healthy work relationship. And as of yesterday, this crucial step is now underway to help pave the path for building an engaged and productive workforce. I asked the Communications Committee to share an email blast with all residents in the morning that will identify and welcome the new Pope employees to our community. We look forward to a mutually beneficial relationship with each of them and the opportunity for everyone to meet and extend a warm welcome to Sandoval. Hurricane season is upon us, as it's pouring rain outside now. Be sure to check out the Lee County Hurricane Preparation Guide online. I did ask the Communications Committee to put something out on hurricane preparedness, and they did put a photo, schematic up regarding the website and some of the preparation steps you can take. It's important to monitor the weather and storms closely. I offer a gentle reminder to please be prepared. Have your supplies, including food, water, and medicine, as well as a plan in case of disaster. Check on your neighbors too. Here's hoping we all continue to remain safe and healthy. Our general manager and board members have been diligently working via virtual calls and virtual meetings, moving forward on important topics such as the Clubhouse Improvement Project, which Don will address later, the management company request for proposal, and other efforts, which you'll learn about shortly. I look forward to the day when this crisis is behind us and we've accepted a new normal. Thank you all for your support. And next, I'll call for our treasurer's report. Mr. Tubb.
All righty. May the 31st, 2020 financial highlights. The May 31, 2020 financials have been posted to our homeowners website for the residents to review. We've received these financials on June the 24th, and they have been distributed to both the board and the finance committee. B, Jason Warren, the head of accounting for Pope Properties, has set up 2 new general ledger accounts to record 2 additional bank accounts set up for us by Mutual of Omaha Bank to receive monies swept from our investment accounts due to the maturity of CDs. Currently, Mutual of Omaha is getting out of the investment business. It has proposed us purchasing CDs in the future from CIT. That is either a division of Mutual of Omaha or some kind of affiliation. I'm not sure what that is. The Finance Committee was given this proposal on June 8th, and we'll discuss it and its alternatives to it at our next meeting. Jason Ward has completed the review of the bulk telecom fund for the entire year of 2019, budget of which was set in 2018, as well as the 2020 to date. The The results were that the 2019 budgeted contributions were set at an incorrect per unit per month contribution of $44.58. That should have been $39.17. Contributions began in January under the prior treasurer and at that incorrect amount and continued throughout 2019 per the budgeted amount. The contribution amount, as reflected by our current 2020 budget, was adjusted to $31.44 per unit per month. The above resulted in an excess amount equaling $92,386.57 being transferred to the telecom fund in 2019. That amount has been reclassified into the operating fund balance as of May 31st, 2020. This was fortuitous as it created an operations reserve in the fund balance, which we will be able to use in 2020 to pay a portion of the unforeseen and unbudgeted insurance premiums. B. Additionally, due to the fact that a few members of the community are having a hard time understanding income recognition as required by the Financial Accounting Standards Board and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, we have added an additional GL account to separate income to the bulk telecom fund in two lines. One, the monthly contribution, and secondly, recognition of income to offset expenditures from either the reserve or bulk telecom fund. Number two, the May 31 balances of the reserves fund and the telecommunications surplus fund can be found in the financial statements as presented on our website. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the general manager's report.
Before I begin, if anyone had a difficult time understanding Bill, his treasurer report will be posted to the community website by tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
I'd like to start off my report tonight by introducing our new staff members. Evelyn Ruiz joined us as lead administrative coordinator on May 8th. Evelyn has proven to be an exceptional self-starter and demonstrates excellent customer service, especially in sometimes challenging situations. She has used her administrative background in construction management to excel in her responsibilities and has already proven to be a huge asset to Pope and the community. She began with us by learning front desk roles and responsibilities. Then 2 weeks ago on June 15th, when we hired our front desk administrative coordinator, Kelsey Meredith, Evelyn spent the first week training Kelsey on ARC leasing, ID card distribution, and vehicle tag distribution. Kelsey comes to us as a licensed community association manager and has recent experience with processing leases and ARC applications, as well as a host of other HOA business matters. We're truly fortunate to have someone as experienced as Kelsey take this role, and we'll work with her on growing her career with Sandoval and Pope in the years ahead. Also on June 15th, we hired Sharon Matthews as our compliance manager. Sharon brought to us years of past experience handling compliance issues with other organizations. I spent Sharon's first week with her reviewing the structure of the organization, state laws, governing documents, bylaws, use restrictions, and approved policies. We also spent considerable time in the community reviewing current enforcement issues. One thing emphasized to Sharon in her interview process, as well as her training period, was the fact that it has been years since we've had consistent enforcement. We hired Sharon with her ability to take ownership of compliance in Sandoval. We're guiding her to be consistent, strict, but fair. We realize some residents may push back somewhat when receiving notices. However, we also realize that due to this inconsistency, as mentioned earlier, this is to be expected. While we will be implementing $100 per day fines up to $1,000 per violation in more egregious cases, I cannot stress enough our intention is not to levy fines. Rather, it is to gain compliance. And for those who think paying a simple fine will make the problem go away is simply not true. We have the ability not only to fine, but to also mediate and seek legal injunction through the court system to gain compliance as well as collection of the fines. I've been guided by the board of directors to exercise our fullest capabilities by law to gain compliance, and in turn, the community turns itself around from a deed enforcement perspective. Keep in mind, a person's home is likely the largest single investment they will make in a lifetime. Further, most people move into a restricted community for one reason: to preserve and increase potential yield of that investment. and that itself is the primary reason for an HOA's existence. As such, we intend to carry out that responsibility to its fullest. All of this said, we also believe there's an element of communication missing from the Deed Restriction Enforcement Department. As a result, the HOA will be using the community website with the Communications Committee to communicate things such as rule explanations, images of compliant versus non-compliant items, as well as specifications on conformity items to better assist residents in being able to know exactly what is expected of them. Bottom line, Sharon is a huge addition, and we believe will take enforcement exactly where it needs to be. Lastly, yesterday was Chrissy Blizzard, our new lifestyle manager's first day at Sandoval. We're so happy to have her. She has multiple years of experience in coordinating events and activities for families and is eager to get started. She will be spending her initial period at Sandoval meeting with Social Committee Board liaisons and then eventually the Social Committee to begin planning for reopening activities. In the interim, Chrissy will be working on third and fourth quarter calendars, budgets, and recommending virtual activities as well as other events and activities we can partake in while still maintaining social distancing and staying in compliance with state and local mandates. An e-blast will be going out tomorrow morning, further introducing our new staff members, and will include pictures taken by our Communications Committee photographer, Harold Fowler. The next item I wanted to update is our Veterans Gate repair approved at the last board meeting. Permitting through the City of Cape Coral is nearing completion. Our contractor handling the job, Bose Electric, expects work to be completed no later than July 15th. This project will bring us all new gates and operators at Veterans Gate, which we sorely needed. Semi-related to above, this past Saturday, we had an incident where a non-resident pushed through the middle lane of the Pine Island entry, significantly damaging the metal gate. We anticipate repair made by Wednesday of next week. Thanks to a tip from a resident who witnessed the incident, I was able to find the vehicle in the apartment parking lot. I contacted Cape Coral Police, who responded and was able to identify the driver. I was told the driver had a psychotic episode, believing she was on an airport runway. Unfortunately, the driver does not have automobile insurance. They do have a steady job, and once final costs are in, I'll be looking to secure payment in one way or another, small claims being a possibility. The next item I wanted to update is the Neighborhood Rep program. Obviously, we were derailed by coronavirus and staff transitions. However, now that we are back to full staff and nearly caught up from those setbacks, I anticipate having a new neighborhood document out to reps by July 21st, and as soon as restrictions are eased, we will be meeting as a group. Another item I would like to talk about is the CenturyLink contract, which expires in 2026. A rumor was brought to my attention today that the HOA received a notice from CenturyLink terminating the agreement. That is not true. The HOA has not received a termination notice from CenturyLink, and is most aware there are provisions in the CenturyLink agreement enabling termination under certain circumstances. However, again, the HOA has not received a notice to terminate and moves forward with the expectations the agreement will continue through its entirety. Next, some residents may not be aware. However, Sandoval prohibits the use of fireworks. This is found in paragraph 2, section I of the Sandoval use guidelines, stated as a prohibition which includes use and discharge of firecrackers and any other fireworks, provided the board shall have no obligation to take action to prevent or stop such discharge. Lastly, I wanted to reemphasize that summer is upon us, as well as the many children and adults outside walking and biking and enjoying themselves throughout the community. We are asking all residents to please drive no faster than 24 miles per hour and fully stop at all stop signs. Again, please slow down, observe traffic rules, and drive safely. And the last thing I wanted to report on came from a comment made in one of the earlier agenda items, and it related to scooters. And we will be, the HOA will be enforcing scooters as prohibited in the use restrictions. and Sharon Matthews will be assisting us with that initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on,
Jeremy, can I ask a question?
yes, go ahead.
Previous meetings, we had spoken about, I'm sorry about that. We had spoken about, initially you reported some dues forbearance requests due to the coronavirus and people being out of work. I believe there were only 2 of them. Have we seen an increase in any of those, or are we still staying at that number?
We actually have an open forum item that I was going to discuss that,
Okay.
but we have had one additional request. It just came in day before yesterday, and Bill hasn't seen it. Evelyn will be assisting me in writing up a proposed payment plan, and then it'll go through Bill.
And have we seen, in conjunction with the forbearance, have we seen any increase in delinquencies, flat-out delinquencies, since the COVID has
Not
hit?
of any significant nature, no.
So it will be of your opinion that the impact of these 2 or 3 forbearances that may go on a payment plan are not going to have a negative impact on our 2020 budget?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else, comments? All right, so next we have the ad hoc committee reports, and first up is the clubhouse improvement report from Mr. Wells.
I have good news about this because we have had a lot of progress that I want to just reiterate here for you just a little bit. Okay, the project is really progressing well, and we were actively engaged with the city permitting process. The site development plan that was submitted has been returned after the first review. There were a few comments that needed further explanations, and these updates were sent back to the city yesterday by Avalon Engineering. And a couple of highlights from this report included is that one of the good news things is we do not have to put a sprinkler system in the new building. That's going to save us $41,000. The need for bicycle racks around the building was brought up, and I informed them that we have plenty of extras and we'll be able to take care of that, so the city was so informed. The gazebo, that little building that you saw between the 2 buildings, the price tag of that was $37,000. And the committee and the construction conference call and asking the architect if he thought that was an absolute necessary thing, he did not feel that the community and the residents would get $37 worth of value out of it. So instead of having that on the current construction list, it will be left on the plan as a possible future add-on. So it would be approved by the city, but the recommendation is to currently not build that at this point. So that'll save us another $37,000. The landscape plan that was submitted to the city, our landscape committee wasn't happy with that. They were going to take out the coconut palms and put in royal palms, and we all felt that that was more dangerous when a big frond falls off than the coconuts, which we could manage. So we had the landscape architect that works with Avalon Engineering back out here, and we, with Allison Johnson going over the site, we were able to re-establish leaving these coconut palms in place, and by counting the number of trees that were going to still be on the property, we significantly reduced the amount of required foliage and trees that were in the original plan, so that will produce another cost savings for us. So with all these things that we're talking about here, we're getting our project really within budget. I think that the construction manager feels that, the project manager too, feels that we will have a very good opportunity for the subcontractors to be competitively bidding, and so that could also help us. Our program now is currently well within the budget after trimming some of these things out that we're talking about, and if we can have additional savings, that will be even better. So additionally, the interior design options have been discussed by our entire clubhouse improvement committee. And the overall theme that was selected was along a traditional line, and that the committee made the comment was for the shape and the style of the fixtures. Now, and they wanted a soft, light, tropical color scheme. And we looked at some bathrooms that we'd seen on another HOA. Those were submitted to the the architect, and they're kind of aqua and very soft, pleasing colors, and I think that's our theme going forward. Another thing that we talked about was the luxury vinyl planks for the floor at a commercial grade, which has extra thickness that a home doesn't have, and that will be another, I think, another positive item. The audio-visual components in the building have been explored by Vic Nitschfeld, and with the help of a AV vendor and the architect, we have a plan going forward with that to not only redo all the audio-visual things in this existing building with the new floor plan, but also audio-visual equipment in the new building. So going forward, I think, you know, we've addressed that. The one thing that I've learned in this process is that, you know, we are really looking at all the details from start to finish of this building, so the budget is on budget, and it's not, well, you know, there's X number for this. I mean, they're being very helpful in making suggestions. There's alternatives, and I see this as really a positive thing going forward. Now, Mark Stevens from Stevens Construction will be with us at our next board meeting, and we have asked the board if we could move that 1 week, and it'd be Thursday, the 30th of July, which will require action by the board. He will then be here in the clubhouse, and we can virtually ask him questions, and for question and answers. So all you residents that have questions about this project, we'll have a mechanism for you to get them to us, and we want to fully answer every single question that you might have. So that concludes my report.
I'd like to take this opportunity to recommend a motion from the board to formally move our July 23rd board meeting to July 30th.
So moved.
All right,
Well, then
And
I'll
a
second
second?
the motion. I'll second the motion.
Don seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion
Vote.
and a vote. Can we have a vote on the date of changing the board meeting from July 23rd, Thursday, 6 o'clock, to July 30th, where the
To accommodate
construction
Stevens
briefing
Construction,
will
Mark Stevens.
brief the residents.
All in favor, say
All
aye.
in favor, say aye.
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 All right, the ayes
Opposed?
have it. Oop, opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. The motion passes.
I'd like to add to Don's report. He did a good job, but Stevens still says we are on the timeline to complete the building and have occupancy early 2021, probably February.
Thank you. Okay. All right, next on the agenda, we have the Taylor Morrison litigation topic with Ron Spooner.
I met with our counsel recently. Our committee continues to meet and work on these claims. We have no significant updates other than that.
All right. Thank you. Next, capital improvement projects, Al? All right, very good. Nothing to report, thank you. And lastly, the management company request for proposal. Melanie Palmer.
The committee continues to meet each week. We've identified several potential companies that we're interested, and we're finalizing a standardized template, and we're on track for issuing the RFP in July. So I feel like we're making good progress.
Very good, thank you.
Can I add one thing? I've just noticed that Risk Management Committee was not listed on the agenda. I do not think we need a motion because we're not going to be taking a motion or conducting business. But if Bill Tubb or Ron Spooner would like to give an update, it would be appropriate.
I can do that. The Risk Management Committee has not met. We're still waiting to get the new loss runs from our insurance carrier reflecting the settlement of our lawsuit so that we can go look for a more cost-effective premium for our insurance going forward. And because of the COVID, we just haven't been able to get together and meet. We should be able to do that shortly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. All right, and then old business, assisted living facility. Ron?
Before Ron begins, I'd like to read the memo for the benefit of the audience. Upon conclusion of the last status update provided to the Board of Directors, there were 2 outstanding issues related to our decision whether or not to accept a limited assignment of rights to control the commercial ARC, including enforcement. The first was a question was whether the HOA has approval rights for commercial area variance requests, or whether the HOA only has such rights by accepting a limited assignment. The answer is the HOA has no approval rights unless it accepts the assignment. The second question related to what exactly the ALF, assisted living facility, developers were asking us to sign off on. I've included a limited release draft and received from the developer of the ALF. And now, Ron, if you would like to expand on this topic, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, as the board will recall, at the last board meeting, we had the developers present to address and answer a plethora of questions. Subsequently, I've received no input from any residents regarding this proposed assisted living facility. The board needs to decide whether we are agreeable to sign off on the 3 variances raised by the developer. Just as a reminder, I'm hearing feedback, so could everybody mute their phone? The 3 developers.
If everybody could also mute their phone and also make sure that they are not watching the live feed. Ron, you want to give it one more try?
Jerry, before Ron goes on, I think the problem is that Vic has your microphone on so that we can hear what's going on, and we're getting the feedback from your microphone.
Okay, I'm going to take mine offline right now.
Okay. I'll just restate a lot of what I said. At the last board meeting, we had the developers of the proposed assisted living facility present and answer a plethora of questions. Subsequently, I've received no input for or against the proposed living facility from any residents. This board needs to decide whether we are agreeable to sign off on the 3 variances requested by the developer. And just as a reminder, what those 3 variances are is allowing them to put a residential dwelling as opposed to a commercial dwelling, a height restriction of 2 stories in place. There's their proposed living facility 3 stories and a square foot. I'm happy to answer any questions that are raised. I just want to reiterate that this isn't a management decision or a Ron decision. This is a board decision on what is best for this community. And I'll leave it at that.
I would like to make a motion that we approve those 3 variances as a committee for these folks here on the assisted living facility.
Right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And that was Ron, was it? I'm sorry. All right. So Don's motion was for the board to approve the 3 variances as Ron defined, and the motion was seconded by Ron Spooner. Is there discussion?
I have a question. If we haven't accepted the assignment of the right to do this, how can we approve anything?
Well, it's persuasive. It's not legally binding, but they certainly respectfully want our position, and I think it would help with any lingering issues with the city. So it certainly doesn't put us in a worse position, frankly.
Well, I also think that everybody at the shopping center, the bank, and the Zakovics will all be approving or disapproving those 3 variances. So the next step would be, do we see any problem with it? I think it's separate from us being the management of the of design and things that we might be getting from Bonita Bay.
I would just say, as a board,
Exactly correct.
as a board member, I'm going to be voting against it strictly because of one of the variances again, and it's the height requirement. The city has been pretty blatant lately in disregarding their own zoning requirements, especially when it comes to height. I've seen a lot of buildings that are exceeding the height requirements close to residential areas. And I believe for the best interest of our residents, and personally I probably will be voicing my opinion against this, that they conform to their own zoning regulations or change them because they are not consistent in their approval or disapproval of these plans throughout the city.
Well, I'll just respond to that, Scott. It is not a city requirement that it be 2 stories. It's a use restriction that is currently held by Bonita Bay. So basically, it puts us in a position where we can ask for some concessions, which we have done. There's an access other than an emergency fire exit on surface. We have asked for some contributions when it comes to maintaining the road. We've requested dumpsters beyond the far side. We've requested certain large shade trees. We requested the dark sky initiative. Those are certain things that we requested in exchange for our support of these variances. And again, these aren't legal obligations from the assisted living facility or proposed assisted living facility, but persuasive. If we were to take on these, we might get further hinder their ability to make this. But frankly, there are a lot of obligations that come along with taking on enforcement of restrictions. And I do think that's a separate. That's the reason that they're willing to work, and frankly, wouldn't have to.
I think we could do a lot worse than what they're proposing on that piece of property.
Exactly. All right, so Melanie, did you want to make a comment?
No, I was going to say the same thing. You know, obviously it would be great if it would stay green space, but that's not probably going to happen.
Right.
So, you know, it's at least we know what we're getting. It's going to be a low traffic. It's not going to be, you know, Dollar General.
Exactly.
You know, I think there's probably worse things it could be. And by approving this, we're not accepting any responsibility. We're just saying we're okay with you building within these guidelines, changing from what we've previously said. Okay.
Correct.
Correct.
All right, is there any other, go ahead, Ron.
And I will note just the document that they sent over requesting that we sign off on the 3 variances to date hasn't been clear enough for me. So obviously I will circulate that to the board if we do get the board votes to sign off on the 3 variances. But we're not at that point yet in terms of getting a satisfactory document in front of us. But we'll know in terms of what 3 variances are acceptable to this board.
So again, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we are going to be voting on are acceptance of the 3 variances, not the document that is included in the board pack, correct?
Correct.
We are accepting in theory that those specific items would not be objectionable to us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And the document just reflects that.
So I think there was a motion made by Don, a second made by Ron. Or is there any more discussion?
Any more discussion? All right, so all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, so we have a 6-1. The ayes have it. The motion has passed. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda, we have the coronavirus initiative amenities reopening. The board continues to monitor both the June 5th Phase 2 reopening plans for the state of Florida, the city of Cape Coral, and Lee County, as well as reviewing CDC guidelines, noting restrictions and guidelines to include capacity limitations, maintaining social distancing between individuals and groups, and appropriate sanitation measures. Included in the governor's Phase 2 plan are guidelines for social gatherings, which increases the limit from 10 individuals to 50. Social distancing should still be maintained, especially indoors or other enclosed environments. Other recommendations include use of face masks and sanitation protocols for contact points. The board met on June 11th in executive session to address staffing, as well as our phased reopening plan, noting that the clubhouse remains closed for social gatherings, but open to handle official business through scheduled appointments. Following that meeting, the board communicated through the general manager in an email blast dated June 12th that the pool hours would be extended until 8 p.m. on weekends starting June 19th weekend. The email blast also informed residents that the clubhouse remains closed to social gatherings, along with the pool slide and the indoor showers. At this time, access to the clubhouse common area is restricted to conducting business by appointment and the requirement to wear a face mask. In an abundance of caution, and considering the recent uptick this week in local Lee County and Cape Coral coronavirus cases, our focus remains on maintaining a healthy community by protecting common features of this community, encouraging social distancing, and ensuring the health and safety of both our employees and residents as it relates to reopening the clubhouse for social gatherings. This decision is in the interest of the health and safety of both staff and residents to minimize the spread of the disease. And please note, the board has listened to and considered input of residents, some wanting the clubhouse open while others want it to remain closed for the time being, as well as the assumption of risk when reopening the clubhouse for social gatherings. The board realizes that our association provides a sense of community and lifestyle, and we are thrilled that our new lifestyle director, Chrissy Hazard, is now on board as of yesterday. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for discussion on this topic. We heard in the comments that were offered on the agenda, there was discussion about the use of pool accessories, also about the noodles and the noodle slings for sitting in the pool, as well as the exercise weights, the pool hours, as well as reopening the clubhouse. So I'll open the floor for discussion.
I would like to recommend that in two different areas, I'd recommend that we allow the normal pool accessories that we've always allowed. I don't see any reason that those should be restricted. They're in the water, they're covered with the chemicals of the water, and I see no hazard to them whatsoever. I think we should continue the occupancy limit at 90 or 50%, and if it's not quite that, whatever those numbers are, that we're following the same guidelines that Sunsplash does and other areas in Lee County and Cape Coral. And another thing that was brought to my attention, if during the day, if you come to the pool, 10, 11 o'clock, we're closing the pool from 12 to 1:30. And I think that's one of the most ideal times of the day to go to the pool. And that's only an hour or two. And if we're opening the pool till, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, why don't we shift the closure to 3 to 4 p.m., and then it will be open at 4 until like 8 at night, or whatever the time we close it, which corresponds a little bit to when these thunderstorms come through here. So, if you take an hour off and then the thunderstorm comes, you really can't go to the pool at all, and we're wasting that 12 to 1:30, which is usually a pretty good time. And then the question is, do we need to close it, or do we need to leave it open? And I'll leave that up to, discussion, and would be willing to accommodate in either way. Regarding the clubhouse, I feel that We're all adults. I think that we have amenities that people would like to do here. I feel that if we want to have them sign a COVID release and come in here and play their card games, I think that would be what we should consider. We can't be babysitters. I think that everybody assumes their own level of risk and their own responsibility. I would put possibly a COVID release and the requirement to wear a face mask while you're playing cards if you're across the table, and use a hand sanitizer. But I think that they need to have that option. I also think that they need to be able to come get a library book or a puzzle. That's not been possible unless someone makes an exception and lets them slip in here to get a book. I think that that should be made available for them. And I really think that conducting business with the face protection that Al's made at the front desk in the lobby, I think that's reasonable. I mean, the virus is not specific to Sandoval's clubhouse when it doesn't go to Target and it doesn't go to Costco, Sam's Club, Publix, and the places you go to the grocery store, Lowe's and Home Depot. Even the cities that we've had an uptick. Just remember that the survivability of this virus is 99.7% of the people that get it are going to recover. So there's very little things in medicine that is 0.3% of a mortality rate. So I think that, when we didn't know anything about the virus, I was very concerned and I wanted to err on the side of caution. I think as time has gone on, I think we find that, it's very contagious. But even if you catch it, I don't think, unless you've got extenuating circumstances, it's going to cause a fatality. So I think that we need to let people make their own decision. We opened up the bocce. We have people that are playing. We have guys that are concerned and they're not playing. And I think that's kind of the way America operates. You make your own decisions, but I think we need to give us the opportunity to make that decision. So, end of my discussion.
Okay. Who else has a comment?
I do.
Hang on. A comment?
I do. And I agree with a lot of the points that Don had made. It's not to just rehash it and talk about me, but I know there's a lot of people out there behind their keyboards who are bashing the board, telling a lot of things that, what does the board know about it? Well, I could tell you, the gentleman sitting down over at the end of the table there is a doctor. I had 27 years in the fire and EMS, and I have enough credentials through OSHA. I was a New Jersey State Police Hazardous Materials Inspector and all these other things that I can enumerate. For people to say the board does not know what we're talking about, there are some who may have more education than the others, but I know myself personally, I take exception to that, and I could show all of my certifications that prove that I have enough to make an educated opinion when it comes to COVID. And I feel comfortable doing that, and I know there are board members who just don't take these decisions lightly and who do their due diligence, and maybe have to refer to other people for other explanations. But to say that this board doesn't know what we're doing or doesn't have the expertise, again, I take exception with that. What I would like to do is talk about the uptick, though, as you did. You get the argument that people were testing more, so there's going to be an uptick. Well, no, that's true, but the people are still positive no matter if you're testing them or not. We just know who the positive people are now. So that argument is true and false. And again, there are ways that are more readily spread, and I agree at 100% still in social distancing, wearing a mask in public, and hand sanitizing. I believe we should open up the pool to the pool toys, if you will. I don't believe that they're going to provide any transmission of the disease from the data that I've received. So I think that is something we can do. And I think the idea of not closing it between what we'll call the peak hours of the day, the non-rainy hours, is a great idea. And maybe go towards not closing the pool at all. But I believe a shift in that hour would be a great idea, and I think the residents would welcome that. As for Opening the clubhouse to activities again, the couple things that I see is that we're probably going to be closing down the clubhouse fairly soon for renovations as we move into the clubhouse improvement. The exception that I take with people letting, as we hear in the media, let me decide, I can decide for myself. Well, you're making bad decisions because a lot of people are publicly gathering in hundreds and hundreds and spreading the disease. So I think at some point in time, people either in city government, state government, federal government, or HOAs have to make decisions that might be unpopular because if we leave it up to people's own decision making, they probably sometimes don't make the best decision. So I believe there has to be a collaborative effort on input from the residents and what we believe is the best decision. So I'm kind of up in the air about opening the clubhouse. I don't see how we could fit, if there's a maximum of 50 people at 6 feet, I don't think you'll get 50 people in this room at 6 feet apart. So there's going to be a limit on how many people we could actually fit in here being 6 feet apart for whatever function. So that's my 2 cents on COVID.
So with the pool toys, again, we limited a lot of stuff when we first came out. I think that's okay. And as far as the pool closing, we originally decided to close it in the afternoon to make sure that all residents were able to use it, so that we're only allowing 50% capacity. So if 50% shows up and they don't choose to leave, then no other residents can come in. Do we have any idea of numbers of?
We've not hit 90 yet. We've got to 89 once.
Okay. So, I mean, as far as that time, I mean, I think we could at least shift it for the summer. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Before, when we decided that timing, it wasn't rainy season, so now we're into that. And then I would just say that if we find that we're hitting 90 and we're turning residents away, we may have to readjust or rethink at that time. The clubhouse being open, again, the social distancing is going to be challenging. Also a little bit concerned as far as, we just got a lifestyles director, and, what types of activities are we going to be doing? Who's going to be setting up? Who's going to be breaking down? Who's responsible for doing all of that stuff? So I guess I'd kind of like to hear other people's thoughts around that. But I'm comfortable with the pool toys and shifting the pool hours.
Dale, anything?
I'm comfortable with
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. Go ahead, Ron. I'm sorry.
I'll just give my 2 cents real quick on the clubhouse. We have had employees leave because of fear of COVID-19 exposure within specifically the clubhouse. That was part of the reason some employees left. And the employees are going to be the ones that will be forced to deal with the exposure. So before I could say yes or no on this, I would want to hear from our management company whether they're willing to open up our clubhouse and how they would handle the social distancing and protocols in place. And I'll take my guidance from them.
All right. Thank you. Al?
I agree with opening up the pool to the toys. I agree that the hours could be changed. I don't see any problem there. Opening up the clubhouse, I definitely, I was going to mention what Ron just said. I think we need to check with our management company, see how opening up this clubhouse would affect them. Also, I think if we do decide to open it up, we should be working with our new social director and open it up as she would like it. But I also don't think that the people of this community elected me to this position to be their mother. I don't tell them what to drink, what not to drink, what to smoke, what not to smoke. And I think if they want to come here and socialize, I think that's fine. I think they know what to do. They know whether to wear a mask, hand sanitizer. I think all this, if they do that, I don't see a problem with it. And again, like I said, I'm not their mother, so I don't think it's right that it's a stretch that this board thinks that they can regulate these amenities that the community, the people in this community pay for. And I know a lot of them feel like they're getting shortchanged. It's not intentional that you know, I'm sure this board has thought, you know, for the health of the community, for the health of the residents, that this was a good idea. But I think it's time to open up the clubhouse.
Okay, Bill, did you want to say something? Did we lose Bill?
I will be abstaining from this issue, even though Don said 99.3% is recovery rate. I'm part of the lucky 0.7% who had a relative die from COVID, and so my personal judgment's tainted, and I will just abstain from this.
Okay, and I just want to add that you know, we've been revisiting the issues periodically, and today we made it an agenda item. And I think with the arrival of the social director as of yesterday, that we allow her a period of time to get a feel for her role and her responsibility, and to work with Jerry and Pope Management to come up with a plan. And maybe we come back to the clubhouse reopening issue, say in 10 days, 2 weeks' time. We also then monitor the uptick in the local, you know, cases. And lastly, I'm not opposed, and I'll ask you to make a motion regarding the pool. We'll consider it as two different issues, okay? The pool accessory, the hours. And I know the general manager wants to add a comment.
Yeah, so what my comments, the water accessories, I think are completely fine in my opinion. I think we can go back to the way we were. And then on the hours that we're closing, I agree with Melanie. I do not see a reason to close for an hour at this point. If we get to the point where I think the exposure we have is possibly July 4th, but why would we do that every day for one day? I think we can manage July 4th and then possibly Labor Day if we're still in this mode. And then about the opening the clubhouse, one of my biggest concerns is not necessarily, I think the staff can protect themselves. I think what Al did for us is excellent with the plexiglass, and when residents come in, we require residents to wear a mask right now, and we wear a mask when we're dealing with the residents. I think that is probably as safe, like I think Don was saying, like grocery stores, et cetera. I think my biggest concern is we don't know everything about the virus yet. If one of us gets sick, we close down. The HOA closes down for 2 weeks. Do we want, that's the risk I think we're looking at. Maybe it's a risk we take, maybe we don't, but I just want to make sure everybody thinks about that, because again, one staff member could get sick somewhere else too, and we're still in that same situation with quarantining. But I just wanted that to be a consideration you guys use when you make that vote. I also agree, perhaps if the tendency is to go with reopening, make it contingent on Pope providing the board with a plan of reopening.
All right, any more thoughts?
One thought.
Go ahead.
I'd like to see if we can't if we don't open it, make an exception to let the people get some books out of the library.
I would agree with that. So I think we have the clubhouse vote first, and then if that passes, no need for the library. If that doesn't pass, we can vote for the library, and I don't see an issue with the library. So I think we potentially have 4 different motions and votes to do.
Okay, let's a little bit more discussion. Melanie was mentioned. Are you in favor of just eliminating the closure?
For the pool?
Yes.
I think we can at this time.
Okay.
As you know, if
the need to sanitize
that was
Well,
gonna be
you're not
shared.
sanitizing the gym except once a day.
No, it's a requirement that they wipe down.
Well, that's true. That's true. But then, you can make the same requirement that you wipe it down at the pool. Plus, the pool is outside, and you've got ultraviolet radiation all over the place.
Okay.
The safest thing that we have here in Sandoval is the pool.
Outside, right.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
well, yeah, the two concerns as far as the pool one was around capacity, that all residents had the opportunity to be able to use it. And we were, cleaning, we were closing and cleaning in between. So if if it's,
If you're willing to try, suggesting that we try not closing it and see if we hit capacity, I'm in favor of
You
that.
know what I would like? I think this has foresight. Go ahead and make the motion with the caveat that on July 4th, we close maybe to whatever hour we want to for an hour. If we are at
Capacity
85%,
at the time that
maybe
3 o'clock
85
comes.
or greater.
yeah.
Yes.
Does it take an hour or an hour and a half to clean or whatever?
It's not necessarily the cleaning, no. It's also the making sure that people aren't camping out and taking the seats. So it's clearing them. We've been able to do it typically in 30 minutes. But what I have is the staff now, I've got them alternating, so it takes the full hour. And so one of them will come in and take their break while the other one is doing the cleaning, and they alternate that to where in the full hour they can get everything done.
Okay, so technically you could come at 8 o'clock in the morning and stay at a chair or a table
Till 8
until.
o'clock.
Well, without that closing, you could. It doesn't happen, no. But it could. The only reason I talked to Kathy about this, there is a little concern about July 4th, about that going over that limit, and that's why I'm suggesting if we're at 85 or more to allow us to close for the hour, not necessarily for the cleaning, but to clear out, so it gives other people a chance to go to the pool in the afternoon.
So would you like the motion to be, we'll eliminate the closure, we'll allow all normal things that we used in the pool to be reinstated,
Pool accessories.
and on July the 4th, you will,
What about the slide?
Well, that's another issue I was hoping might not be in this motion, because I think it's a separate issue. And if I have, the biggest concerns I have is the slide, only because, nothing to do with the slide itself, but we cannot social distance kids. It's just not going to happen. I don't care how many volunteers you have. There's going to be some point that the kids have to line up for next. And those kids will not be, we just won't be able to social distance them.
I'll defer that to you all.
Maybe that's an easy decision to make, given the tick. of
Put some
kids,
duct
you know,
tape,
I don't- yeah.
put some duct tape up there or
I mean,
something, and
I think kids are, I think they're pretty used to now. I mean,
Yeah,
anybody that's
exactly.
going out, you see those lines everywhere, you see the X where you're supposed to stand. It seems,
they follow the rules better than adults usually.
I think one thing, and again, the slide is a great amenity for the kids, and again, we're getting into that, as Don had mentioned. If I go to Home Depot and grab an item off the shelf that somebody had just touched with their gloved hand, that's now they're spreading everything all
Everywhere,
around.
yeah.
Right.
What's the difference if the kid touches the sides of the thing? So, you know, it's a slippery slope, but I agree to this point. I don't see why we can't open the slide, but what I would like to see, though, instead of duct tape or whatever, is signage that we can put on the concrete that says, maintain social, I've seen them all over the place, maintain social distance, 6 foot here. And again, I think you're right, the kids are so used to it now, the parents telling them, you know, don't go close here, do that. And they're gonna stand on that spot like it's almost their spot that they're standing on. So I feel real comfortable with the kids doing that. They probably listen a lot better than adults do. So I say open the slide, and if we can get signage made that will stick to the concrete, you could put 3 or 4 of them, however many we deem necessary, to maintain that social distancing, and we can open that up for the kids.
Right, and with the addition of the 5th pool attendant, the staffing, the policy here is that one pool attendant has to be at the top of the slide when it's operating. And then there's a need for 2 volunteers, one to have an eye on the water immediately at the bottom of the slide, and they give the thumbs up when it's clear for the next person to come down. And then the second volunteer at the gate to help meter the number of kids going up and down, who would also have then to keep an eye on the kids lining up and encouraging them to social distance. So contingent upon the fact, or the need to have the
Two volunteers.
the volunteers and the availability of the pool attendants would be the other issue.
Which would be consistent. I don't think that particularly has to be in the motion, because that would be consistent with how we've operated
With our current,
before.
yeah, this SOP, the standard procedure, right, okay. All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to eliminate the hour, and it's 12:30 to 1:30 currently, the hour is closed.
The proposal was if we have it, it would be like 3 to 4.
We would slide it, push it, yeah. Okay. The pool accessories.
And then,
And the slide.
allow all pool accessories that we've allowed in the past. and to continue the occupancy limit at 50%.
50%. With the July 4th noted, the concern.
As if you are close, within 85, that you would consider a closure at between 3 and 4.
That's where I would do it, at 85. If we hit 85, I'm going to say, yep.
So is 90 the half occupancy?
89.
Yeah, 179
Yeah.
is the capacity, so we're
Okay,
saying
so
90.
90, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and then if you don't have to do it on the 4th of July, don't do it.
No.
Right. And the hour that we would suggest the closure would
3 to
be
4.
the 3 to 4 or the 12:30 to 1:30?
It's up to you guys.
No,
the
3 to 4.
3
3
to
to
4
4.
because you're trying to avoid the, closing it during nice sunny times, and the
Okay.
potential of a thunderstorm would be later.
All right, so we have a motion
I'll make that motion.
from Don Wells. Do we have a second? This is just on the pool. Al seconds. Is there further discussion? All right, so the motion was that we would eliminate the hour, 12:30 to 1:30. We would allow pool accessories. We would open the slide with signage encouraging the maintain distance and a minimum of 3 people, the 1 pool attendant and 2 volunteers.
And maintain your 50% capacity.
And maintain the 50% capacity, which is the 90 people limitation.
Can you take out the signage? Let that be an operational thing, because I don't want to
Okay.
not open that until I
Yeah,
get the
until you
signage
have
down.
the
Yeah.
sign,
Okay, so we'll take out the signage, the signage. All right, so those 4 points. So I think we're ready to vote, right? Anybody need clarification? All right. All those in favor of opening the pool?
Aye.
From
Aye.
12:30? Aye. Bill,
Bill's
did we
gonna
hear you?
abstain.
Oh, Bill abstained, okay. Any nays? All right, so the ayes have it with 6 ayes and 1 abstained. So I know that the residents will be happy about the pool accessories, the usage. All right. That covered all of the pool issues, correct?
Now we're
Okay.
looking at clubhouse.
So now the clubhouse, the reopening of the clubhouse. Do we have a motion?
I think the motion there is that we would consider reopening the clubhouse under the guidance of Pope and regarding routine operations and regarding social programs and the library.
Okay. In the library.
And I think we would be looking at a planned opening on 2 sides. One would be health, and one would be working with these 2 guys on programming
Social.
issues.
Correct.
So planned
Correct.
opening.
Correct.
Okay.
So at this time, it's not going to be date certain,
Yeah, it wouldn't be tomorrow, for instance.
just
Well,
to
you're going to
manage,
get Pope guidance.
just to manage expectations. It wouldn't be tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay.
So the motion on a planned opening.
All right, a planned reopening.
I think one thing I'd just like to mention is, during the construction, there is going to be some times that I think everything's going to be closed while we're getting that done. And if we have a little window here that people do get the opportunity, I think it will. I know Melanie thought, you don't want to get it started and then you have to stop it, but I just think that, there's a contingency of folks here that would like to do some things, and if they're given that opportunity and then we close it for the other purpose, that at least they've had a chance.
Can you elaborate more and remind me on what the timing
Timeline?
is of the closing? Do we know, or are we getting?
We are, I think we're probably within 3 or 4 weeks of getting the site development permit approved. And then we have to submit the architectural plans and get those approved. I think that if I stick my neck out here, mid-September to the 1st of July could be groundbreaking.
What about the closure of this building?
That's where-
Not for renovation?
Yeah,
You
October.
mean mid-September to 1st of October?
Mid-September, 1st of October, yes.
For the closing of this building for work?
Refurbishing.
Well, that would be the beginning, and I would say that as far as the initial things, you're doing groundwork, So as to when this building would be closed, I think we have to defer to our construction manager.
A little bit later, though.
So I bet it's later. I bet you this building won't be closed till like
October.
maybe October, the middle of October, because they'll be doing a lot of footers and foundation and taking trees out and things like that, which
So we probably shouldn't plan on using this for Halloween?
I would think
That's
no.
a very good thought.
Yeah, it's going to
I
be a
would,
big
thi-
issue.
I would
Everything
think that probably would
be
be something we
impacted.
might ought to consider not doing this year.
I- I think even before the clubhouse closes, they're going to close part of the parking lot, so you're going to have people having to park over by the tennis courts and walk to the clubhouse.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Don, are you volunteering your house for the Halloween
Yeah.
No,
haunted house?
no.
All right. So
Melanie is, so we can get some people out in phase 3.
We can do a hayride or a cornfield maze or something.
Right.
all right. So we have a motion
To,
for a planned
to have-
reopening of the clubhouse
with Pope
with
guidance.
Pope guidance.
There's two parts to this. One would be the operations for the HOA business, and the other would be the social programs. And then
And to include the library.
and then I would include the library in the first phase because they're not in this room, and they need, if the door's open to come in and conduct business, you could
agree.
walk back here and do the library,
Is
and
there any
then.
reason the library couldn't be open tomorrow?
No, I think
Do we need to
that,
postpone that?
No, we can
Okay.
open that.
right.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I mean, do you think you need Pope guidance to have people come in here and come to the front?
Just
I just
the-
want to,
the
I
masks.
want to.
You want to
get
clear
them-
it with them.
I believe I know the answer, but I just want to get
Yeah,
them to stamp
and
approval.
I'm comfortable with that.
Right. And the requirement, mask requirement, right? And
Well, you would establish the
Yeah.
policy of what you got to do when you come in here.
all right. So, do we have a second on the planned reopening of the clubhouse as proposed?
Yep, I'll second based off recommendations.
Okay, Melanie to second.
Who was the motion? I apologize.
Done.
Don. Thanks, okay.
All right. Is there further discussion? All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
On the phone?
Abstain?
Okay.
Bill?
All right. Ron?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 abstained. The ayes have it. And more information coming.
Yeah, and I would think that Monday morning, we would open up the clubhouse for operations, and then it would be a little bit later, depending on for the social part of it.
yeah.
So, okay.
And to give the social director
Right.
a fair
Yeah.
opportunity to have a, a good look at
We're
it.
not forcing anything on anybody.
Correct.
Just giving people the
Correct.
opportunity.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad we got that settled. That's all I have on this coronavirus update. Did you have anything further before we
No.
move on? Okay. So next on the agenda is the street paving. So I'm going to turn it over to both Ron and Jerry.
Well, before Ron speaks to it, I'll introduce the memo for the audience. Included in your board pack is a status update of efforts to identify and bid street repairs. The general manager and Ron Spooner will provide a status update. Your pack includes a synopsis of repairs bid by Bonus, Inc., as well as reserve funding information. Current plans are to gain an apples-to-apples bid on the Bonus proposal from two competitors. Not included in this one is sidewalk repairs. The primary purpose of this discussion is simply to alert the board of directors to the scope of repairs and estimated costs that we're looking at. So again, no decisions are going to be made today. We're not going to be taking a vote, but I just wanted to let you guys know where we're at, what we're looking at in general, and take any questions and that might help Ron and I move forward. And so I'll leave it up to the floor for any comments, questions. Ron, do you want to add anything, please?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple things. I think personally asphalt repairs should be a top priority. A number of board members went through the entire neighborhood and identified a number of significant issues. Based upon that, we have brought in at least one paving company so far to bid, and we expect to have additional paving companies bidding. Some of the areas that we're looking at is completely replacing 5 circles not just patching, replacing the 5 circles, replacing the Somerville Road that connects to Calypso, and numerous repairs throughout the community. And I would hope that we would get 3 bids. So far, we have 1 bid. And I would hope that we would have the additional 2 bids within the next 2 weeks, and in the apples type bidding. Also, in addition, we are also requesting bids on sealing the road. The reason why a lot of our roads are deteriorating is basically that the top layer of the asphalt basically it degrades. And so basically that's what causes these potholes. When you seal them, you prolong the life of the asphalt. And what I'd like for us to do is do a cost-benefit analysis to determine whether sealing will actually save us money. So we're looking at this in 2 prongs, basically the actual asphalt repair that is needed and doing a cost-benefit analysis with actually sealing all the roads in the entire community. And hopefully we'll have all these bids to circulate to the board within 2 weeks.
You know, the only thing I'd like to add, there are actually 2 circles that we're looking at either doing partial or full, and they are the Sunville Court Circle and they are the Wynwood Circle. And one option would be if we seal coated just those circles, but only did half of the circle, from an aesthetic standpoint, it would blend in very nicely. If we didn't seal coat it and just did half, it would take, I think he told us, Ron, correct me, I think he said a year or 2, and then it would start blending in together. So the seal coating on the circles not only would preserve, but it would also be an aesthetic benefit for those guys as well. And again, the delta on those 2 was about 15 grand. And in the, you know, when you're looking at 83,000 plus another potential 167,000, when you're looking at that number, the 15,000 isn't that great of a deal. You know, however, if you're looking at just the 83,000 number versus the 63,000 number, excuse me, 68, my glasses are bad, then it becomes a little bit more of an issue. But it's all preliminary, and we will, so basically what I'm gonna do is use the specifications that we got from Bonus and use those specifications to bid apples to apples to 2 other contractors. I would like to use Haunch. They're friends of Sandoval, and that I don't know if everybody knows this, but for the past 2 years, when we've cleaned out our sewers, Haunch has saved us considerable amount of money by letting us store, or excuse me, dump the silt from the storm sewers on their property. So I would definitely want to use Haunch, give the opportunity. Does anybody else have any other contractor, maybe Don or Al? Would y'all have any other contractor besides Calypso? Yep, very good.
I mean, they beat everybody.
Awesome. So we're looking at Calusa and Haunch.
Haunch will be the most
HONC?
would be one of your most expensive.
HONC?
Yes. Yeah. Haunch did the work for Taylor Morrison.
There's a lot of them. Well, we have a whole list that we can provide to you.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
I think more bids better, and frankly, it just needs to be done expeditiously, though.
Well, what we did with the parking lot is that Stevens Construction did the bids. They had a spreadsheet, and it was about 6 companies. It was a large number. I mean, and you had all the specifications that you were looking for. You wrote those all down, and then you could compare apples to apples, as you say.
We did get blacktop bids from the other companies, but we did get blacktop bids from several companies, but the problem with the parking lots, especially the one by the tennis courts, is there were a lot of drainage issues with that. You know, there was $45,000 worth of work, and a paving company doesn't normally do drainage kind of work, but they might do excellent paving work. So, you know, we could certainly approach these companies and get bids from them.
Awesome.
I mean, we could provide you the name of all those.
Be great.
I do have one question, Ron. On Stony Hill, there's one area back by our cul-de-sac that it's too low, and that person's driveway and the cement is moldy all the time. So it's a drainage issue. I don't know if that's another one that we should add to this list to solve that problem or not. I mean, the asphalt's not the issue. It's the level of the driveway coming down where the cement is. It's too low.
And the driveway always has water on it at the end of his driveway.
Is this something a paving company could resolve for us?
Well, they'd have to knock the concrete out and pour new
and raise it up.
Well, then I think, Ron, we need to add that spec, and I can get Bonis to come back out and look at that, and I'll just add it to the spec. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
I mean, that was one of the things that was on that we wrote down as an issue for the 558, but I don't know that it got put on there. But that's one that's been there ever since we've all been here.
And it's completely apparent when I see it. It's going to be.
It's 2665.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Ron, you wanted to add?
How do we do the analysis on
question.
the whether we should seal coat the rest of the roads? How would you suggest that, Ron?
And part two, is Taylor Morrison, is there still an issue with sealing the Phase 3 roads with Taylor Morrison, the litigation?
No.
Or has that been resolved?
No.
No.
Okay, sorry.
That's
I take it
not
back.
an issue at play. Basically, what I'd like to do is get an estimate, which we've gotten one so far, basically a guarantee from the contractor how long that will extend the life of the roads, and then evaluate if doing the seal coating is actually going to save us money long term. If it does, to me, it would be a no-brainer to do it because there's also additional benefits to it, and we'd be saving money. But I'd really like to take and that's what I mean by a cost-benefit analysis.
I mean, if you're looking at the raw numbers, your seal coating was $167,000, and the resurfacing of those roads is $1.5 million. I mean, it'll eventually need to be done, but how long you could prolong that by the 167, even if you did it twice, once, and then 5 years later did it again.
And I'm glad you looked into that, Ron, because again, getting back to what we've done in previous lives and things, I was part of one of these projects in the town I used to live in, and they had a regular, Department of Public Works had a regular program where we budgeted seal coating for the roads. And I can tell you from my experience being on that committee is that, I don't know what your number in the Delta is going to be, but it definitely prolonged the life in our municipality. And that was a northern state too, where we had snow and all that stuff. And freezing. So we definitely saw a longevity increase in seal coating surface roads that belong to the city.
Absolutely, and that hydraulic fluid that gets dropped on it all the time, I mean, it seriously degrades the roads. So it's certainly, I think, a viable option if we can justify the cost.
Yeah, correct.
Can we formally put this under the capital projects ad hoc committee? So I would like to use Al and Don as some, to bounce things off with as I go through this, and I think it'd be appropriate to be under that committee. Does everybody agree?
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
I agree. I'd be happy with that.
Okay. And Al's saying yes,
We're
he agrees.
pulling you into it too. So.
A team effort. So, all right.
Don't feel obligated. Oh.
No, he's shaking his head yes. That's good. All right. Anything else on the street paving?
Thank you both. I know you did a lot of hard work for us. Thanks for helping on this.
Yes. All right. We'll move on. The new business now is the neighborhood reps appointments. And
Right.
did you want to speak any further on the neighborhood liaison program?
No, I'm
Okay.
done with that.
All
Right.
Go ahead.
So the association would like to thank Ernie Giordano and Michael Cristo, respectively, for their volunteerism as neighborhood rep and neighborhood rep alternative. Upon their resignations this past year, Alice Fasciano has volunteered to accept a role as neighborhood rep for Wynwood Place. I recommend the board of directors make a motion appointing Alice Fasciano as neighborhood rep of Wynwood Place.
All right. So do we have a motion to name Alice Fasciano as the neighborhood rep for Wynwood Place?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Scott makes the motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Melanie, second the motion. Any further discussion on this one?
Just like to say that Alice was a member of the Sunshade Committee too, and it's
Oh,
just
good.
another tribute to our residents stepping up to the plate and volunteering and
Community
when the
volunteers.
rubber meets the road there. So thank you to her for that.
Super, thank you. Anybody else? All right, so we'll have a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. On the
Bill
phone,
Tubb, aye.
Ron?
Ron might have fallen off.
Okay. So 6 ayes. Any opposed? Okay, so the ayes have it. The motion passes. Alice Fasciano joins the Neighborhood Rep program representing Wynwood Place. Thank you. And we have a second one now for the Security Committee.
The association would like to thank Gary Cootie for his volunteerism as a member of the Security Committee. Upon solicitations for additional security members, Anthony Volpe has volunteered to accept a role on the Security Committee. Anthony is a retired NYPD officer and is eager to help out in any way he can. I recommend the Board of Directors make a motion appointing Anthony Volpe as a member of the Security Committee.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to appoint Anthony Volpe as member of the Security Committee?
I'll make the motion.
Al Roper makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
Okay.
Bill, it's fine.
Bill Tubb, second. Any discussion?
I just would like,
It just says, how many members
Yeah.
do we have on that committee? Or are we-
oh, well, I'm not going there right now. That's the discussion I was going to have related to that. That brings us to 2 committee members. We are looking for a minimum 5. We would like to have 7 or 8. We are going to be expanding significantly the roles and responsibilities for this committee to include things like perimeter fencing, site security, vandalism, gate issues. So it's going to be a lot more robust of a committee. And I've committed to Ron next week getting an email out further explaining how robust this is going to be in efforts of getting more volunteers. We really need volunteers for our security committee, but I just think a lot of people aren't aware of what we will be doing, so we'll be elaborating.
And I'd just like to echo that because, I thank Anthony for stepping up as a retired NYPD officer. And I know in this community,
There are a
we
number.
have a lot of active and retired police, fire, and EMS. So I would just ask all my brothers and sisters out there that if you do have the time, please step up. And this is a committee that I could see is really going to turn the page for Sandoval, and it's headed in the right direction. So please step up and volunteer.
And I second that motion. Thank you very much. All right, so that leaves us now with,
Did we do an all in favor on that?
we did all in favor,
Excuse
yes.
me. Okay.
We did all in favor. All right, so a solicitation for additional agenda items.
I'd originally told
For the
Kathy
good of the order,
we
right?
were going to put the board meeting on there,
June
but
30th, or July 30th.
yeah, but when he opened that up, it gave
Right.
us the opening to go ahead and do that at that
So we
point.
already addressed it, moving the date of the board meeting.
That's correct.
All right, so is there a motion to adjourn? Melanie, is there a second? All right, Bill Tubb, second. Okay, great, thank you. And we'll move now to the open forum topics.
All right.
Thank you.
Chris Bechtel wrote in, and her topic was for general forum question. She says, I would like to have this addressed by Pope representatives. We are sorely in need of better violation enforcement. A big part of this is lack of education of the homeowners as to what the rules are. This then has been followed by lax in enforcement of violations. Do you have plans for improving this? If so, what are they? We pay HOA fees primarily, I think, to ensure a high quality of life and feel confident that our property values are protected. Are you able to help with that? Can't agree more, and I think I've addressed all of that and more in my general manager report on our compliance program. So thank you, Chris, and yes, I think we are headed in an awesome direction that's going to be led by Sharon Matthews. So thank you.
Is that the only one? Oh, sorry.
One more. Yep. The next one, the last one, it was submitted by Deborah Judd, and her question is, if people are not able to pay their dues because of COVID-19, will the residents be responsible for making up the difference? Is Pope the same company we had a few years back that forgot to put a lien on a person's property when they did not pay their HOA dues? At that time, we, the homeowners, had to make up the difference, and each property was assessed the difference equally. Did those delinquent homeowners ever pay what they owed? If they did, should the homeowners that made up for the delinquency ever get reimbursed? Let me help you. No. It is my understanding, per the guidelines, that liens were supposed to be put on properties if they failed to pay their dues. Then if that property sold, the association was supposed to be reimbursed before a lien could be released. So the question is, yes, liens are placed, but there's also an assumed lien. And one of the processes we have in place to help us are estoppels. Every time a home sells, the title company, correct me if I'm wrong, requests an estoppel through the realtor. Sometimes we get the title companies requesting them. Sometimes it's a realtor's on behalf of the title company. Basically what that is the HOA sign off on a balance due and your current assessment rate. And we have in the last 6 months added current violations to that estoppel process, which I know is off topic, but it has been a really good benefit for us and helps us make sure that when a home sells, that past due balances are collected, the owner knows the current rate, and that if there are any violations on the property, that those are noted as well on the estoppel. So, and if Deborah has any further questions, feel free to contact me during business hours, and I'll be happy to elaborate more.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's it. So good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.